Good morning everybody and welcome to the safariLIVE pre-drive drive. We are out bumbling about this morning looking for all sorts of exciting things, well hopefully some exciting things as we bumble about. And Byron is also out driving, Tristan is on walk this morning, and of course I hope that you all remembered that we were changing times today because well here we are, aren't we? So we're just going to drive around for the moment. We're going to I'm actually listening to the Game Drive channel, seeing if I can pick up any updates from the eastern side, so all the way sort of towards Cheetah Plains, and we're just going to check all the way down there. Maybe Shongile or Karula pops up this morning. That would be an absolute bonus. I'd definitely like to try and find her before I go on holiday, otherwise it'll be a good 4 weeks before I see her again. So we'll go down and check from here all the way to Shibamo, check the pans, and then go along Gari Main towards Twin Dams and have a look around there at one of their favorite spots. And hopefully this morning we will be in luck. That's the plan. Craig is on the vehicle with me today. Here's Batman. Yeah, there's lots of chatter going on in the east, so we're actually going to eventually head towards Cheetah Plains. We're just going to do a quick loop here. We won't hang around unless we find something spectacular. I'm hearing the words cheetah and leopards being mentioned quite a large amount on the radio at the moment. I don't know, it's very intermittent, but we'll have to get a bit closer. I'm actually surprised that I'm picking up their frequency from here. We're very far away. So maybe that means that somebody is out on the plains. I'm not making any promises. They could just be asking if somebody has checked those areas. But it's definitely got me all excited. Craig, are you excited if you see a cheetah or a leopard? He's very excited. Craig can't wait. He's bouncing off the back of the seat. Sit down, Craig. Right, let's see here. So the reason why I'm driving down Zoe's is actually because Byron had said to me that he'd heard alarm calls about 10 minutes ago, and then he sort of pointed and did this motion. So I think he meant in this area over here. I'm not quite sure, but I haven't seen any tracks just yet. And this is actually a much better time to be going out because I can see footprints on the ground. I'm not having to start with a spotlight and try and track the animals that way. So hopefully we'll have a bit more luck now when it comes to tracking, seeing as though we're starting at the right time, just as first light has come about. Let's see, nothing here. There's lots of coarser tracks. And white-tailed mongoose. But no hyena and no leopard tracks just yet. Craig, pick a road, except for this one going this way. We can go left or we can go straight. Let's go straight. Straight, okay. Reason why I said Craig can't pick the road to go right, otherwise we go back the way we basically come. We don't want to be doing that. We want to check different areas. I remember when I did my interview drive coming past here with Jamie, and we had Sindile's tracks and we were trying to find him. That was pretty cool. Then we didn't find him, and then we went to Lions. We went to the Styx Pride where they had all 8 cubs. I'll never forget that. Alright. Okay, dokes. I'm going to say goodbye to all of you, and we'll see you in a moment.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
We are surrounded by wildebeest and impala at the moment. It is a beautiful morning in the African bush. And this is safariLIVE.
Ready. Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Safari Live. My name is Byron, and on camera with me this morning is Seb. And we've got Rebecca and Megan in the final control, and Alex is there. Morning, Alex. And then we've got who's on the vehicle? Taylor's on the vehicle with Craig, and then Tristan will be doing a walk later. It's a great morning. It's about 21 degrees Celsius. It's about 72 degrees Fahrenheit. So not too cold, but the temperature's definitely dropping a bit as we move into our autumn. And very soon it's going to be very cold mornings out here on Safari Live. And I hope you all remembered that we were starting half an hour later this morning. It is not an April Fool's joke. The times have changed, so half an hour later we got to get a little bit of extra sleep this morning, which was great. But yeah, so we'll see what we can find. It's just starting to get light, so it's a perfect time of the morning. Don't forget, we are live, and send us your questions, #SafariLive, and we'll happily answer them for you. And just a reminder about the time change again, this afternoon will be different too. This afternoon we will head out and be live from 3:30, so 3:30 to 6:30, our Central African time. We've got these herds of zebra and impala around me at the moment. Have a look at this. They've all been feeding on the beautiful clearings outside camp. Nice and open. And there's lots of grass around for these animals at the moment. I'm actually surprised we haven't seen any zebra yet. Often the zebra do come out into these clearings too. I'm going to sit and see what these wildebeest get up to. While I do that, as they migrate past me, let's head over to Taylor and see what her plan for the morning is.
Good morning, everybody, again, and welcome to, of course, another sunrise safari. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me is Craig, and we are bounding about this morning, hopefully looking for all sorts of wonderful. What is wonderful? I just removed a letter there and made a new word. Wonderful animals. The radio is very chatty in the far east. I'm actually quite excited to head that way. But as we drive along, start thinking of some questions, or if you've got any topics that you'd like to discuss today, #SafariLive on Twitter. That is the only way to, of course, get hold of us. Or if you saw something interesting on the dam cam, send us any information. Now, Sandy, you're wondering how I feel about the time change. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. You know, I love getting up early. It's my absolute favorite. But once you've been doing it for 6 months of the year and you're waking up before 4 o'clock, the novelty can wear off quite quickly. And it is quite nice just to have an extra half an hour of sleep. If you're like me, who I never sleep when it's dark, it's the most bizarre thing in the whole world. But I normally get my sleep, if I can get sleep, it'll be like after 2 o'clock. So to be able to have another 2 hours, 2.5 hours of sleep is really good, as I wake up all the time. So for me, I love it. I'm thrilled about it. Right, what is going on here on the floor? Let me check. There's some tracks, but I think that they are hyena tracks. We're on Gary Main now, and the only problem with Gary Main is that it's nice and sandy and it leaves lots of tracks in the ground. But because it's such a busy road, not only from game drive vehicles, there are often a lot of early transfers first thing in the morning, particularly when guests are flying to Mauritius. They often have to leave at 4:30 in the morning to make their flight. So it makes it a bit difficult, because if you're not in a game viewing vehicle, most of the time you're not really looking for footprints on the ground. It's really just us that worry about it. So it looks as though there was some hyena activity quite early this morning, or even very late last night. The sand is sort of blown into the road. There is a vehicle that's driven over half of their footprints. So that's also a good indication to me. Nothing has walked through here since then. You can see that those tracks weren't made an hour ago, just before sunup. Oh wow, I'm going to show you the beautiful sunrise. It's absolutely spectacular. And also, I'm also keeping an eye out for, of course, Shongile or Hosanna or anybody else that could be lurking around here. Now you're going to see a little bit of a power line. Actually, let me go up to it a bit closer. You can just start to see that beautiful orange and pink coming in from the top left corner. We try to go off the road slightly so we don't get the power lines and being a bit naughty. It is so lovely. It is literally just completely risen above the horizon of the trees. And have a little listen to all the birds that are talking this morning. It's quite beautiful, isn't it? Lots of turtle doves, lots of laughing doves, the hurricane quails. Starting to hear francolins and spurfowls. That's the nice thing as well. Is normally when we were starting, it was quite funny because you wouldn't hear any birds. It was so dark. Now we're starting drive just at the right time. And speaking of just at the right time, Tristan has also stepped out. He's doing a bushwalk, and he's probably got, I think he does, he's got a better view of the sunrise.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our sunrise drive. And as Taylor said, we have a spectacular view of the sunrise this morning. It really is very, very, very pretty. Now, as Taylor said, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Ferg, and we are out on quarantine clearings, just looking around as to what's going on. It's always such a beautiful place to be in the mornings. There's often lots of impalas and wildebeest, which you might have seen with Byron just now, and then you get the spectacular view of the sun coming up. Now, the thing is, last night, when we were trying to find Tingana and we were moving around all over the place looking for him, and we eventually then bumped into him in the last second of the show, and some of you may have just seen him popping through the frame as we closed, and he walked pretty much in the direction that I'm at right now. So I want to just check around and just see where he went and where he popped out, because if there's not too many tracks that Taylor or Byron found far from here, potentially maybe he's managed to kill something and we can pick him up again. So I'm going to look out for any signs of his tracks as well as just to look at any sort of insect activity. It is a bit cooler this morning. It's much cooler than what we see normally in the mornings in the last few weeks. So I'm going to try and see if there is stuff around. It might be a little bit too cold for them, although I have just spotted a little moth, so I just want to investigate what this moth is. Don't fly, moth. No. Well, there's a little white moth that is flying around there. Let's see if it'll settle down for us in land. There we go. It looks like a speckled footman, but I can't see very nicely from where I'm standing. And they actually haven't been around too much. No, it's not a speckled footman. It is one of the footmen, but it's not a speckled footman. I'm not exactly sure which one it is, but still pretty. And those will be the last of the moths for the night. I'm sure it's trying to find somewhere to settle down before we end up going into the heat of the day. Right, so we're going to carry on walking and seeing what we can find and see if we can pick up these tracks for Tingana. And while we do that, let's go across to Byron and see what he's doing with his impala frolicking on quarantine.
Well, it's amazing. Have a look at these eyes. Can you see the impala eyes all reflecting there? And it's because the sun is coming through. We don't have a spotlight on at all, but the sun is so bright at the moment. It's just hitting those impala. Look at the reflection in those eyes. That's amazing. I've never seen that before, that the sun is that bright that it causes their eyes to reflect. I wonder if it's not got something to do with the camera too, perhaps. No. It's just because the sun is so bright, because I'm just looking at that those impala now, and you can see it's amazing, really, really amazing. Look at that. We parked directly in front of the sun for them. So when they turn and they look at us, you see, look at that. That's amazing. Loads of impala around here at the moment. The wildebeest have moved off slightly, but still in the area. A lot of animals out in the clearings at night. So I think I might try give Tristan a hand in trying to find Tingana, perhaps. But I wonder how far that male leopard walked last night. I mean, we know the night before he covered a huge distance and basically walked almost right around Djuma to get into the area where it was found yesterday morning. So who knows? Who knows? It could be anywhere right now, but we'll see. We might have some luck with other animals. Maybe some elephant. That would be great. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on from these clearings and go and do a little loop and see if I can't help Tristan, see if we get any tracks of Tingana this morning. Nice to see all those impala around. I think sometimes we take impala for granted. They are really beautiful antelope, and they play such an important role in this environment. Huge food source for just about all the predators. They are very successful antelope if you look at their breeding strategy and how well they do, and that's why they are in abundance in this area. Just having a look. You see, look at this. There are leopard tracks here. Leopard tracks going through quarantine. Let me try have a look and see how fresh these are. Yeah, this is from last night. I don't know if I'm able to show you. I'll try. Let me see if I can find a really clear track for you. There we go. Hold on. So can you get that one over there? Let me see. Let's see. Maybe we can zoom in on this one. Can you see that there? You got it? There's the leopard track. Now this does look like a big male. Back pad, 1, 2, 3 lobes, and that's middle part of the pad, and then the 1, 2, 3, 4 toes heading in this direction. I just want to have a good look around here because there's been a lot of nocturnal activity. Okay, so I've just seen what I was afraid of. There is a civet track around here too. I just want to make sure that that civet track isn't on top of the leopard track. There's a lot of tracks here, and also all these impala walking through now. They've walked over some of these tracks. Let's have a look. This looks like from last night. I don't think it was early this morning. Also some white-tailed mongoose tracks here. So there's a lot walked down here last night. There were honey badger tracks just further back before we got onto the clearing. So I'm going to try and follow these tracks and see which direction they go, more or less. But I think this is from earlier last night, and not this morning, by the looks of things. But we will see. Good start. It's always nice to find tracks in the morning. Now I'm curious because all these impala and wildebeest head out into the clearings in the evening. So I wonder if they didn't see the leopard that walked through here. Possibly alarm called at it. We didn't hear any alarm calls last night. Well, I didn't at least. Now I'm just going to have a good look around here. Let's head to Tristan, who is also looking at leopard tracks.
We are indeed, but we're not looking at the tracks of Tingana. These are a lot smaller than what Tingana would have. So these are very, very little tracks. You can see that if I take my finger and I put them next to it, it is very, very small indeed. So these are little tracks for a genet. that would have been walking around last night, and I love their tracks. So often we don't get to see them, but in nice soft substrate like this, the tracks show up really clearly. And the reason why we know it's a genet is, one, because of its size. The only other thing that could be similar to this would be a mongoose, like a banded mongoose, because a dwarf mongoose would be a little bit too small for a genet foot. And so the dwarf mongoose, you would end up with a situation where there would be lots more tracks, as well as very prominent claws that would have been on the front of the banded mongoose. So here it's just this one, which is the genet walking, and you can see that it came here and then it turned and went down the road a little bit, which is quite nice, and then back again, and was obviously foraging around here and looking around for something, because it turns quite a bit in this general vicinity, looking around for food, and would have been out hunting for little insects and beetles and those kind of things. Now, I would have thought that Tingana's tracks were going to come out where we are at this current moment, but unfortunately I haven't seen anything, so I think he might have cut off in a more westerly direction. So what I want to do is try and walk that way and towards sort of Treehouse Dam, and see if he maybe has gone that way, because he often likes to walk towards Treehouse Dam. He's a creature of habit, Tingana, so if we don't find his tracks on Weaver's Nest, we're going to find his tracks around probably Treehouse Dam, and maybe then heading west towards Shabamu and out into Arathusa or Hofmann. So that's where he likes to head. And it was interesting, while we were walking down here, heard the call of the European bee-eater. And the European bee-eaters, also as the European rollers, and the name suggests, will spend more time in North Africa in our winter, and they heard them calling, and we looked up and there was a cloud of them just crossing quickly past on the horizon. So I think they're all gathering now to start leaving us and start going back north. Like I was saying, this morning's got a little bit of a nip in the air that's not quite that summer feel. It's now becoming very autumn in the feel, and so I think most of our migratory birds will be congregating and starting to move off. The other interesting thing is this morning is that I haven't heard a monotonous lark, which is very strange, because last week at this time of the morning, monotonous larks were going non-stop, and they were everywhere, especially here where we're walking now. They used to sit all along this open on these small trees, and this morning, absolutely quiet. Now, I said that they would be leaving on the 10th of April, so I'm a little bit out at this stage, but let's see. We still have time to check, and I know yesterday on Cheetah Plains I did have them, so they're still around, but let's see, maybe they'll be gone before I know it. Right, we're going to carry on seeing if we can find any sign of Tingana, and while we do that, let's go across to Taylor, who I believe is on her way to Cheetah Plains.
Look at what we have got though, seeing as though you were talking about migratory birds, Tristan. We've got one perched in the fork of this young bush willow, and it is now, it has just flown off. But that was a woodland kingfisher, and that's another one that we're going to be leaving us shortly. So I hope you've all put your dates in as to when you think that they're going to leave. John B., you said that you've got your bird list ready and waiting today. I presume that means you want to do a little bit of birding then. Okay, no problem. We can try and squeeze a few in. Well, that's good then, because we are going to Cheetah Plains, and I think particularly for birding at this time of the year with the diversity, and particularly the big open plains, really does bring an amazing element to the birding scene. So John, we will try and add some new ones to your list. Are there any that you're hoping to see? Maybe you can let us know, #SafariLIVE, with which ones you'd like to try and see, that you know are in the area, and then perhaps we can look specifically. But we'll have to just see what we, of course, find out there today. There isn't much so far. There's still quite a bit of chatter. I don't know what they're tracking, but they're tracking down something on Cheetah Plains, so we're trying to race there, where hopefully we will be able to hear the radio a little bit better. We're still quite far off. Now, I'm just triple checking the spot here for tracks, but I haven't seen anything just yet. Only a couple of hyena tracks, a few elephant tracks. Now, Michael, you're wondering if there's been any sort of update on the tracks of Karula. Michael, I'm not sure. I never saw Karula's tracks yesterday, and Craig and I were actually just talking about it. The only tracks that I saw was Tingana's from the night before, which I'd actually marked, and I think Steph started speaking about them too. And then we had those very, very fresh tracks of Shongile, who was playing games and was just following us behind the vehicle. Well, that's what it seemed like. After we'd moved out, she came through there. Other than that, and then yesterday I drove Twin Dams as well, and again I followed Shongile's tracks from Twin Dams all the way across to Elephant Carcass, over Weaver's Nest, down towards Twin Dams, and then on Twin Dams Road back towards Shibamo. That was the exact route. And I think she came onto the property to look for Mom. That's a route that Karula has taken them numerous times. They know it like the back of their hand. They know which termite mounds they like, which trees they like. I think for about 2 months at one point we were seeing there almost every day, if not every second day or so. So I don't know if it was Karula's tracks again. I didn't see the tracks that Byron was looking at. We'll have to see. But I haven't heard anything from anybody hearing things. So we'll ask. If I bump into some more guards on Cheetah Plains, it sounds like there's a few, we'll stop them, we'll wave them down, and hopefully they'll give us some more insight. Right, let's go across to Byron now. And speaking of leopards, they're still trying to track down Tingana.
So I actually think those tracks that we saw, and I remember Tristan saying they caught a glimpse of him last night right at the end of the show. And I think that's when Tingana walked through that area, because there's a lot of other activity, animals that have walked over those tracks. Those tracks are not from this morning, they're from early last night. So it's actually not worth us trying to follow those at the moment, because he's probably moved quite far. Unless we find fresh tracks, you can track for hours before you find something, if you find it. So I'm going to try and check in a different area, see what else we can find. There's such amazing light at the moment. Sorry, I didn't copy Rebecca there. I walk in the rain. I was actually just thinking that. You asked if we could visit the hyena den this morning. I think I'm going to do just that. Let's head into that area and go and have a look. I heard from some of the other guides at Arathusa that they've got a very active den site. It sounds like, well, the southern part that we are unfortunately we are unable to go to it, but they've got an active den down there with the little cubs at the moment. But I will go check our den site. I'm going to head straight there and go and have a look and see if there's any activity. Now, with it still being very cool this morning, I'm hoping that there is quite a bit of predator activity, hopefully animals walking around. You never know. Could bump into something. The last few mornings, in fact, we've kind of found leopards a little bit later in the morning walking around, and it's a bit cool, or not as cool, warming up slightly. I don't know. Their behavior changes so often. It's sometimes difficult. It's a bit of luck, I think, and a bit of persistence and looking in the right areas. Now Tristan has found elephants, and I was looking for them. Let's go and have a look.
Indeed we have, Byron, but if you keep going along towards Fitterman's cutline, I think you'll get the rest of the herd. We've got the tail end of the grouping. They've moved from this area and are moving down through the dip and around, following that drainage line. But it's so beautiful to have them at this time of the day. They're all very relaxed feeding. There's some that are still to our eastern side, and they're slowly but surely just shifting out, and hopefully we'll get a situation where they'll all be out in the open. Now, where we are is a great place, because we've got a beautiful big termite mound. We've got this big marula, false marula, that is hiding us away, so we can be here with complete confidence. Also, the way that the wind is blowing is it's blowing from them to us, which is perfect. So we should be able to sit here for quite a long period of time and enjoy these beautiful animals on foot as they go about their morning business. And you can see that the two young males that are down in the dip at the moment are just feeding away. It's a beautiful, cool morning, so for elephants it's the perfect time to be feeding. They're going to be out gathering big swathes of grass and taking advantage of the last bit of grass that we've got. Within the next probably 2 weeks, if we don't get rain, and with these cooler temperatures, all this grass is going to start bending and start dying off, and the seed that the elephant is after is going to start disappearing. And so they'll be taking big clumps of this and just shoving it in and take advantage of the cooler hours. As soon as it gets a little bit warmer, then they're going to start looking for water and shaded areas that they can go and then potentially spend the rest of the day in comfort. Ultimately, when you're a big elephant, you don't want to be out in the open and be completely in the sun, because you're going to get very, very hot and very, very uncomfortable. Now I can hear there's some more ellies that are coming just on our other side here. So we've got quite a few of them around us, which is amazing. It's always so good to be in the middle of an elephant herd. It really, really is. But the thing is with elephants is that you've got to be very careful, particularly the herds. When they have their little babies, they are very aware of what goes on around them, and they can get quite aggressive with what goes on. So you can hear there's a little young one that is calling. So they might have moved off a little bit behind us, and they'll be chasing each other, and it's nothing that we need to worry about. Like I say, we've still got some that are quite close to us here, and if they're not reacting and then they haven't picked us up yet. But it might just be this morning there's a few early games. Now, like I say, they've moved off the road and into this thicket here. I just want to see where they end up going, because at this stage they've just in the bush sort of looking around, and they are putting their trunks up a bit, which means that they probably can sense that there's something. They're just not quite sure what it is. And at the end of the day, our voices and us making a bit of noise is what they might be picking up. Smithy, in terms of distance and how close we are, I would say that the ones that were standing behind me were probably about 50 meters, whereas the ones that were off to our eastern side at one point were probably about 25 meters. So not too far. They were quite close, but like I say, the conditions this morning are in our favor. They're not really being able to see us very well. They are sitting in the thicket now, and they're a little bit more alert, but I think that's more because of me talking. So the sound of my voice is carrying over this sort of cool air that we get in the morning, and that's why they've picked us up. But they're now just through this gap here. You can just see the top of one of their heads there, and they're sitting, and they're not even facing towards us anymore. They're still busy feeding. And the best thing with the elephants, and when you're on foot with the elephants, is always to watch how their feeding behavior goes. As soon as they stop feeding, then you know that there's a problem and that they've picked something up. But when they're still feeding and they're still quite relaxed and the ears are all flattened against the body, then you know that everything's okay and that they are calm and confident with what's going on around them. And like I said, the two that ran off there could have been more the fact that there also was a big male that I saw on the top of the ridge that was slowly coming down, so he might make his appearance shortly, or it could have been the fact that they heard me and then moved off into the thicket. But it sounds like they're feeding nicely. I don't know if you can hear that they're pushing over branches and feeding off it. It's really quite something just to sit and listen to them. Now, I was talking earlier also about the monotonous larks, and they've just started calling now. So I was saying that I hadn't heard them, but it seems that the dawn has woken them, and they are now calling quite excessively behind us as well. So they're back, well, still around and still visible. So Buttons, you're asking is it true that elephants basically that the size of their brain determines that they have more spatial awareness and are more aware of what's going on in the environment they're in? Well, yes. I mean, their brain is bigger than most of the other animals, so they have the capacity to be able to, much like humans, work out problems, interact with their environment and interact with one another. They have a very broad spectrum that they're able to communicate through, that they talk to one another. They have tactile communication. So there's a lot of things that they have that a lot of other animals don't have, and because of the size of the brain, they can process so much more information. And that's why elephants are said to be so clever, is that they can, do all these things and figure things out by using the size of their brain. Now, I'm just trying to keep an eye on them. I don't want to get caught out. The other day it was quite funny. On Wednesday morning, I was busy talking about elephant tracks and mud and saying how fresh it was, and all of a sudden a whole bunch of elephants came out behind us. So we don't want to get caught out like that again. So just checking around now. Luckily we do have Rexon, who's on guard today, and he's busy watching out for us and making sure that we are staying nice and safe while these ellies are around us. But like I was saying with them just now, that they are very intelligent animals, so you've got to be a little bit careful with them, and you've got to make sure that you position yourself in the right places. Now, we're going to try and see if we can maybe get a little bit of a better visual, because where we are now is not great. And while we do that, let's go across to Byron and see maybe if he can find an elephant herd of his own.
I haven't found an elephant yet, unfortunately, Tristan, but I will keep looking. We are heading towards that hyena den site now. I'm just listening to the radio, and I can hear, it sounds like one of the other guides found a male leopard, but it sounds like it's on Torchwood, unfortunately, which is directly east of us. So I wonder if that isn't perhaps Tingana, and I'll tell you why I'm thinking that is because those tracks that we had were generally heading in an easterly direction, and we know how far he can walk. So he possibly moved through the whole of Djuma, scent marking during the night, and he's eventually headed out onto Torchwood, which is east of us. So I think he might be in that area. That's what, but they just said a male leopard. I'm not sure exactly which one it was that they found. Maybe we have some luck with Karula. Lauren, you asked if any of the cats are related to mountain lions that you get in the US. Well, in terms of them being also, they're all part of the cat species, yes, but a cat family. But trying to think, probably the closest that we would have to mountain lions. No, I've seen pictures of those mountain lions. We don't really have anything. Maybe the caracal. No, mountain lions a bit bigger than that. I think a cat closely related to mountain lion, if I'm not mistaken, is a puma. Now, we don't have them around here either. So, but yeah. No, Lauren, I don't think anything that closely related, other than that they're all part of the cat family. Just checking all these termite mounds, hoping that we might find a leopard. You know, leopards do tend to enjoy laying on termite mounds. It gives them a bit of a vantage point to look around. We might bump into something else, you never know. We're not too far from that hyena den anyway. Would be nice to see if it's still active. It hasn't looked active for quite some time. So, and we know often what happens is the hyenas move dens. So they'll have one den, and then once especially to give birth initially, and then once those cubs grow up a little bit, the adults will take them to another den perhaps. And that's usually because the den that they're in is probably flea-ridden, a lot of fleas, a lot of ticks. Then those hyenas choose to move out, move into another den for a while, and then maybe even a third one, or back to the original one. They will use dens annually, so they'll use the same den a few times. So let me head towards that den side and have a look. And while I do that, Taylor's just arrived on Cheetah Plains.
We have indeed, and I managed to get an update from Andrew. He says that they are busy tracking Thandi and her cub and Tamba near the Cheetah Plains Lodge. So that's the leopard part of all the commotion that we were hearing about. So there's 3 vehicles already working that area. So what we'll do is, I don't think anybody's gone down to check the plains just yet. So we're going to start on the eastern plains and then work our way down towards the Mala Mala boundary. And hopefully we get lucky. But that's quite exciting. So of course, if they do find Thandi and Tamba, we will probably be put onto a standby. I also have male leopard tracks now. Right, let's go a bit further away. If you have a look, where's a clean one? These don't look particularly fresh. This looks like from yesterday evening. If you look at this one over here, you can again just have a look at the size difference. Now my hand is much, much larger than a male leopard's footprint. I think unless it's maybe the Anderson or Mvula, not Mvula, Mbavala, then they're probably a bit closer to my size of my hand. And you can see that of course it's a cat because it's got the 3 lobes at the back of the pad over here, and it's massive. Quite an angular little turn. And then, of course, a lovely big round toes going this way. But it doesn't look particularly fresh. I think that most likely this would be somebody like Quarantine moving through here. We're not far. Coral's just on the other side of us. And I think that he came through here probably a couple of hours after safari times would have finished. So maybe he was just resting up in some of this long grass. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll come back for that. It's going now in the opposite direction, and I didn't see any more tracks. I don't know where he's gone. Let's continue on our original search, and I'll call those tracks in. Now, actually, you're wondering, what do the big cats do to stay warm in winter? Snuggle, if you're a lion. Lions love cuddles with each other. Of course, that's one way to keep warm. Other animals' body heat. And then the other way, of course, is that the animals get a summer and a winter coat. So as it starts to get chillier, you'll notice that all the animals' hair starts to get a lot thicker and denser, as do your cats and dogs. And it's the same thing for lions and leopards, even hyenas and things like that. They'll get a thicker coat. And then when summer comes back around again, well, then they shed it. But yes, that's normally how they keep warm. It's obviously difficult for animals that are not social to be able to cuddle up with each other. So I think in terms of lions, they're the luckiest, and they've really got it all worked out. Living together in pride's obviously an opportunity to be more successful at hunting things. And then, of course, during the cooler months, you can all cuddle up quite nicely. So I think that's very nice. Yeah, I think those tracks actually do belong to Quarantine. This is his favorite area around here. And Coral is just through here. He's always sort of around 3 dams and then going back towards the Cheetah Plains Lodge. Maybe he heard Tundi last night and is going to investigate. We'll have to see, but I will call him when I get to a better signal spot for the radio comms. I'll call those tracks in, and hopefully someone can go and follow up on them, seeing as they're going in the complete opposite direction. If not, we'll come back to them a little bit later. I wouldn't mind actually seeing Quarantine. I haven't seen him for a long time, and he is such a beautiful cat. What do they call him again? The poser, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen him posing once on a termite mound. I think that's all I've really seen him posing on. Oh no, and the reservoir here on Cheetah Plains. I've seen him and Nkanyeni sitting on top of that. But other than that, I haven't really experienced much posing. To me, the leopard that poses the most out here is Kuchava, Tundi's older daughter. She's the most magnificent leopard. She plays with any animal she finds on the ground. She gives you a great sighting there. Then she goes up and down trees, and then she sits on termite mounds in the clearing, which is really nice. So I love her. I think out of all of them, she's the best. Now, if you're wondering, if you have just started watching and you're not exactly sure as to who all these names are and what animal they are all leopards. So up in this particular area, we see quite a few different female leopards. We've got Nkanyeni, we've got Kuchava, who else have I seen around? Tundi and her cub Tumba, but Tumba's a male. And that's really all I've actually ever seen around here. I haven't seen Tundi yet. And then typically the males are Quarantine at the moment. Then, of course, Tumba, Tundi's new son. And there was Quarantine's older brother, Shivambalana. But it seems as though the two of them had a box and has moved out. And then there's a leopard called Nkunyuma, if I'm not mistaken. He's still alive. That is Quarantine's litter mate. My goodness, it's really difficult to try and keep up with the family dynamics between the leopards. And then, of course, Votomi, who is Nkanyeni's son, who is dispersed from her now, and he lives at Nkoro. And then, well, what I'll do is I'll actually leave it up to Tristan to go through the leopards that you sort of see more in the western sector, the southwestern corner. He's pretty good with that. And then, of course, well, we see the royal family, who we haven't seen for ages, but they do exist. They are around. That's Karula and her 2 older cubs. They're not even cubs anymore. They're sub-adults. They're about a year and a couple of months. And they sort of traverse around on Djuma. We normally see them. But who knows? I would love to see Kuchava or Quarantines. Well, he may be Quarantine. I think I could do with a big male leopard. I also just want to see how much he's grown. Now, Buttons Cockatoo, you're wondering who decides on the names of the leopards. Well, what happens out here is typically the guide or the lodge that they're working for, whoever finds that animal, gets to name it. It also got to do with land rights. So say if we come across a brand new leopard cub here on Cheetah Plains, I won't be able to name it. What will happen is we might be able to put a suggestion forward, but in the end, the Cheetah Plains guides, because it is their property, they will be the ones that get the name, the naming right. But everyone's normally quite good. They send out a big email blast, putting suggestions. Everybody, what do you think? What is most appropriate? That type of thing. So they will do that. And then lions a little bit different. The boys get named after the property that they're from. So this isn't just the Sabi Sands. Most of the time, these smaller pieces of land were individually owned at one point. And was all farmland, so they all had a farm name, and we often still refer to them by their farm names of small individual properties. And so then we'll take it from there. So for example, the Birmingham boys, the 4 male lions, a coalition around here, they come from the Timbavati, from a farm called Birmingham, so that's where their names came from. Right. Oh, excuse me, goodness. Right, we're going to carry on. I want to go and check the Big Buffalo Dam very quickly to see if there's anything around there. Let's go across to Byron, who has got himself some antelope.
And one of my favorite antelopes in this area, Taylor, the Inala. Often a lot of people get confused with that name, Inala, and it's spelled Nyala. And this is a young family. There's a young male there. Do you see that? Just the horns starting. And this is great because, and I will show you a picture shortly, but it's great to see the color difference, because the females and the youngsters are all this beautiful reddish brown, but we know the adults go this, the adult males go this beautiful gray color, completely different to the females. Often some people think they're different species because they look so different. I can hear a woodpecker knocking in the background. Let's see if it does it again. You might be able to hear it. You hear that? Sounds like a bearded woodpecker that's knocking. That's often a territorial call that they do. That very loud banging. It's not necessarily looking for food. It's purely doing a territorial call. Wow, that female looks pregnant actually. Looking at it, look at that belly. Oh, we might see some young Inala running around soon. And there they go. Off they go. I'm just going to show you a picture of the male quickly. White Lady Erwin, you would like to know what age they start developing their horns. Just have a look here. There we go, that's the male. You see how different he is. Now, I think the age they start developing the horns, these youngsters are probably around a year old. You'll start seeing the little horns pushing through already. A lot of these antelope develop very, very quickly. So, yeah, from probably a few months to a year old, you'll start seeing the little horns pushing through. But they do develop very, very quickly. But you could see that young male was still the same coloration as the female, that light brown. And then as they get older, they start to change to that beautiful grey color. Only the males, the females stay that reddish brown. Now, I had a look at the hyena den for us. Unfortunately, no activity. It doesn't look like there's been activity there for quite some time. So I do think they've moved off, unfortunately. And I'm not sure to which den, or if they're still in a den. I don't know how young those little cubs were. red fire queen with the Inala, the females will probably, and that family size just increases slightly. The young males, once they reach full maturity, so that's probably around 3, 4, 5 years old, then those males start moving off on their own, and they'll try and meet up with females from different groups. They'll also fight each other for dominance so that they're able to mate with the females. So the females generally stay with the group, and the males, they'll move on once they reach that full adult maturity, and they'll move on to try and mate with females from different families, different groups. So I would say that happens around the age of about 4 or 5 years old, perhaps. You do get herds of Inala where the young males still stick around. You'll see they've already started turning that grey coloration. The horns are a bit bigger, but they're not quite dominant enough to challenge any of the bigger males. So they still stay within the herd until eventually they're able to challenge for dominance. Claire, you wanted to know how big the Inala are compared to the Impala. Let me see if I can actually just show you rather, because it's a little bit easier if I get off to give you something to judge the size by. Watch out. So, full grown, I'd say let's go full grown male Impala is probably, if I had to stand here, the back of the male Impala would most likely be about there. So I'll take shoulder height of the Impala, probably about there. Now with the Inala, probably about there, shoulder height. You know, for a big male, maybe a little bit more. They're quite antelope, very slender but quite tall, quite big. So much larger than an Inala, than an Impala. Oh, try to say those names fast. Inala, Impala, especially this early in the morning. So I hope that gives you an idea of the size. All right. Okay, I'm going to head towards one of the dams to see if we don't have any luck around there. But let's go and walk a bit with Tristan and see what little things he's found.
Well, while we're waiting for our elephants to come out of the thicket so that we can get a bit of visual, because there's no other way to get anywhere near them, we've decided to look at smaller things that come out their backside. So this is the dung that comes out of an elephant, and this is very, very fresh. This is where the herd was before we got here. They were feeding up against this termite mound, and you can see that it's still very fresh just because it's quite sort of moist and wet still, but that hasn't deterred the insects. The insects are in here right now trying to make the most of this moisture that is coming off here, and you can see lots and lots of different types of insects. We've got the flies that are always around. They generally are the first ones to rock up, and then we've got these interesting little beetles, which I'm not sure exactly what they are. They almost look like earwigs, which is type of insect that we get here, and they're crawling around. And then we've got these tiny little flies and little insects that are moving around as well, and they'll all be harvesting the moisture off this, as well as little bits of plant material that they can then feed upon. Now, the reason why that they'll utilize the dung and not just get their own grasses or bits of plant is because a lot of the time plants and grasses have cellulose in them, or they all do, and that cellulose is really, really tough to break down. It's really difficult for these for these insects to break it down. So what they do is they come and get it out of the elephant dung, because by then it's passed through the elephant's digestive system, and some of that has been broken down, and it's much easier for the insect to then absorb that nutrients than it would have been if it had to harvest it itself. So they make use of this poor digestive system of the elephant. That means that it starts to break down this plant material, but doesn't do it effectively enough to absorb all the nutrients, and therefore leaves lots of nutrients for the insects to come and take over. But isn't it incredible how there's a whole ecosystem now thriving out of this little bit of elephant dung that was dropped only a few hours ago, or not even hours ago, a few minutes ago. Now, if you have a look here, you'll notice that we've got a whole bunch of sort of seeds that are inside this elephant dung. Now, funny enough, earlier we were talking about the fact that they eat seeds and that this is what they're targeting. Now, these seeds that you see here haven't actually come out of the elephant dung. This is when the elephant was feeding, and you can see directly above it over here is where the seeds came from. So this is Panicum maximum, a type of grass. And so as the elephant was feeding, you can see here where there's bits that have been broken off, so there's leaves that have been torn up, all in this area here. So this is where the elephant would have been taking its trunk and taking big swathes, and as it's done that, it's disturbed this part here, and it would have pulled with its trunk, and then those seeds would have dropped on top. So those are actually not from being consumed. That is from where the elephant fed over its own dung and dropped the seeds on it. Now, the seeds that were inside the dung, most of them would have been digested. They would have been utilized, and that's why we don't see them anymore. The other interesting thing about this particular dung is if we look at it, most of this is plant material, is grass material. So all of this is just varying grasses that are inside there. In fact, it's pretty much grass. There's very little of anything else. And so at this time of the year, their dung pretty much compromises of grass, because they'll be eating about 70% grass, and the rest will then be roots and barks and things like that. But if you come in the winter and you look at their dung, there will be so little grass, it'll all just be stringy fibers from trees, so completely different. So you can always go to an area, and if you see the elephant dung, you can tell when their rainfall season is just by looking at the dung and seeing when they've got more grass or when they've got roots and fibers from plants, which is quite cool. Now, the elephants are still behind us, because what they did is they pushed over a big marula tree earlier, and they're now just dismantling that tree. So the whole herd is around this tree and is not moving really, and so it's very, very difficult for us to get anywhere close to where they are now. Unfortunately, this is the last little bit of cover that we've got, is by this tree and termite mound. So for us, we have to just be a little bit more patient and wait and see if we cannot just let them, allow them to come out. Chris, you're asking why we don't name the elephants. Well, there's a reason for it. There are some elephants that do have names. So the really big tuskers in parts of the Kruger, they don't have, I mean, they've got names, but we don't see them down here, so that's why we don't really know them very well. But in terms of the herds, the reason why we don't name them is generally because the herds shift and move through here so much, and so many different herds, that it's actually very difficult to keep track of who is who. In the Kruger Park system, we reckon that there's close to 18,000 elephants. Now, to have names for 18,000 animals and to actually keep track of who is really very, very tough. And so that's why. And they also don't spend enough time in an area and often enough for us to recognize them. There are certain elephants that get names and sort of get catchphrases associated with them. So there's a female elephant that we see in this area that has a tusk that grows backwards and almost under a leg that we call fang. So it just depends on the herd, and it's generally an elephant that's got a IDing feature. So it's a type of tusk that is grown funny or tears in the ear. So I know we've got a male elephant called Daryl, and he's got a bell-shaped hole in his ear. So there's varying animals that do, but we just don't name them because of the sheer volume of elephants in the area. Right, so we're going to still sit here and just wait for these ellies to come out. So I'm hoping that they're going to come out onto the road. And while we do that, let's go across to Byron, who's got a feathered friend that should shortly be leaving us to greener pastures.
Yeah, one of the last remaining woodland kingfishers around. That's exactly what we've seen here. Now, it's catching little insects on the bank. So we're at a little dam. Let's see if it catches another one. It just caught one, a small little insect. But let's see if it catches another one. They're amazing, amazing hunters. Great eyesight. No, there goes another one. Wow. Two of them, they're going to sit in the tree. See them there, straight in the center of the screen. There we go. Beautiful light on that kingfisher. Look at that color. Isn't that amazing? Very, very beautiful. Now, I'm just thinking that it's April Fools, and I don't know. I feel like we need to fool somebody. And consulting detective, you say these are your favorite birds. I'm so glad you enjoy them. They are beautiful, really are beautiful. I just took a dive down into the water. My favorite bird is probably the martial eagle. I love the martial eagle. Love seeing them. Beautiful, graceful eagles. But the colors on these woodland kingfishers are amazing. Oh, took a dive into the water again. Now it's not hunting, it's just bathing over there. And trying to clean its feathers and get a drink of water. They don't feed on fish. Despite the name the kingfisher, this specific species of kingfisher, the woodland kingfisher, feeds on insects. There it goes. Too quick, Sebastian. He's just gone low part of the branch. There he is. So as I was saying, it's April Fool's. I feel like we need to fool somebody, and I think I need to this morning. So I'm going to think of something, maybe send in some ideas on how we can fool Tristan. Hopefully the ladies in the FC don't let him in on the joke, and let's see if we can catch him this morning. I think it would be entertaining. It's always fun to have a little bit of a joke. Have a bit of tomfoolery on a April Fool's Day. I remember once we had when we were starting out guiding, some of the senior guides radioed in a sighting to one of the younger newer guides, and he was so excited and he responded. They let him drive for about 3 minutes, so not too long, 3 minutes before they told him, listen, it's actually a joke. But he'd built it up so much to his guests, and he felt so embarrassed afterwards. It's not ideal, but it was funny at the time. It taught us a big lesson for April Fool's Day. Also, don't always just respond. Taylor's got something interesting to show you. Let's go have a look.
Do you know what? We've been so terrible over the last few weeks. We really haven't been paying much attention to Maruda trees at all. And I feel as though they were a big part of our lives for a few weeks when they had all the beautiful fruits that were so delicious and tasty. But I suppose we can look at this one because it has a leopard inside of it. How cool is that? And I'm sure that this leopard needs absolutely no introduction. He is a big boy. He's sitting in the tree. Perhaps it was the same leopard that left the tracks behind on one of the boundary roads. So from here, it does indeed look like quarantine. Yeah, and a big yawn for us. That's very kind of you. Thank you, lovely. And he is absolutely beautiful. Though when he sits in the tree like this, he really doesn't look as massive as he does when he's on the ground walking next to your car. He's a beautiful boy. But there's something that I want to point out to you. Craig, can you see that cut on next to his left eye? He's got a big gash just on the side of his face. Well, not a big gash. I'm exaggerating. But he definitely has some form. Oh, now he wants to move around. You're choosing a different shady spot? A big cat stretch. Oh, that's beautiful. Isn't that absolutely lovely? Here we go. He was just trying to find a spot of shade. Now, I think he's been fighting. I don't know who he's been fighting with. But I did hear this morning that they found Tingana. It sounds like in Buffelshoek, somewhere around there. And it wouldn't surprise me, or maybe even on Tortoise, I'm actually not sure exactly where they found him, but perhaps, and it's inevitable, that Tingana and Quarantine are going to bump heads. They're going to cross each other's paths, especially with Tingana's ever-expanding territory. And as Quarantine gets a bit older too, he's going to start venturing into new areas, and he's not a small leopard, and he's young. He's almost I think he's half the age of Tingana. So to be at this size and almost be the same size of him is really, really quite impressive. So it could be a good match. But again, like we've been saying, experience is so important. And Tingana has got years and years and years of experience. But for now, he's got a little scratch on his eye, which could have even been from a female too. So we can't rule the girls out. They're quite feisty. especially if he's been mating with any of them. You've seen as they jump off of the backs of the female after being mounted, they get a swat to the face. He's staring off into the distance. I couldn't tell you if he's had a decent meal. He doesn't look particularly thin. Oh, but he's a lovely leopard. I'm so happy. I'm so happy we came here this morning, because I was really itching, and I've said it the whole morning that I want to see either Quarantine or Kuchava. So finally, oh, that is beautiful. Beautiful. He's got the most beautiful golden eyes. He is just to die for. Are you going to come down the tree now? If he does, I hope he comes down the way that we can see him. Just rubbing his head. And even when he's up in the tree like that, they can also scent mark. Oh my goodness, here's the poser. Here he goes. Hop. Skip and a jump. Look at this. Very graceful. He's lovely. So maybe there's some hope for Hosana as he grows up. Hopefully, of course, Hosana will end up being as beautiful as this leopard. Now, I know all of you are very excited to see Quarantine. He's always a fantastic chap to photograph and to watch. And like I said, I haven't seen him for such a long time. I think the last time I saw him, he was mating with Nkanyeni. Oh, this is so cool. He's just smelling the base of the tree now. You'll see you rub his cheeks up against that. Definitely can smell something. And at a watering hole like 3 in a row pan, there's definitely an opportunity for many leopards to pass by here and mark on this very prominent marula tree. And that's what the cats will do, is they'll mark on obvious things, obvious trees that are right next to the roads. They don't necessarily go for the ones that are hidden away at the back. They want their scent to stand out. They want their presence to be known. And by doing that, you have to mark in obvious spots. So sure, I'm sure he can smell Kuchava, he probably smells Shivambalana. Even a lion will come and scent mark up against this, so there's lots of different scents. And he's actually just going to walk right past. What we're going to do is you're going to see him walk right past Andrew's car. Andrew's just in the vehicle next to us. Look how close he gets. He doesn't mind at all. Sorry, Rebecca, can I have that again? I missed the last part. Now we got to reposition. Let me see if I can find... Here he is. Oh, now I need to turn around. I'm going to try and hug the dam very quickly. Sorry, I'm a bit distracted as we go over this monster bum. Quarantine, which way do you want to go? Because you're obviously the boss here. Oh no, now he's using the luxury facilities. Oh my goodness. Whee! Right, we're going to go across to Tristan very quickly. He's got something with wings and it could fly away pretty fast.
We have. It's also got spots, so much like our leopard, this has got little spots all over its wings, and it is a beautiful little spotted joker butterfly that is warming up in the morning sun before it begins its day of foraging and finding of nectar. But this little guy is super relaxed. Generally the butterflies are a little bit skittish and they tend to try and fly away as soon as you get close, but this one is perfect. It's just sitting so nicely for us and posing in this beautiful morning sun. Now the reason we know it's a butterfly and not a moth like what we saw earlier is earlier the moth, when it lands, it would have had its wings flat up against its body and down on over the abdomen and across wherever it's lying. It also would have had very feathery antennae and is generally active during the night. With butterflies, you find that they're more active during the day, and when they sit, they bring their wings up like this to be able to fold them in, and then you see the antennae. The antennae are very thin and narrow and not feathery. They don't have those little feathery kind of gills that come off them like what a moth has. And this guy, like I say, is just waiting for a bit of sunshine. As soon as the sun starts to shine, it will be able to dry those wings out from any moisture that is collected during the evening, and then it's going to start flying and be on its way looking for nectar. But it's quite incredible. We're sitting with this massive herd of elephants, and there's a lot more elephants than I first thought, and they're still in the thickets a little bit, so we're waiting for them to come out patiently. But while you're sitting with them, it's just amazing how much life is around us. We've had button quails calling, we've heard woodland kingfishers, we've had monotonous larks, now we've got this beautiful butterfly. So it's just amazing when you sit in one place for a while how much you actually start to see, and it takes a while to pick things up. You often kind of sit here and you look around and you don't see things, but the longer you spend, the more you'll pick up sharp little things around you, which is really amazing. Right, so we're going to go across back to the other spotted animal that we've got, and with Taylor, and see what he's up to.
He's just walking right past the car. You can see there's another vehicle trying to do exactly what we just did. How cool was that? He literally, I kid you not, if I had stuck my hand out, I could have touched him. He was so close. Should I reposition again for you, Craig? Should we just do this? We'll just play leapfrog, and he's very relaxed. And if you do position yourself in the right spot, pull off the road entirely, you can actually just jump ahead of him. And I'm sure he would prefer that than being followed from behind. So let's do him a favor, and we'll just give him as much space as we can. We don't want to push him into the bushes, and I've seen that happen quite a few times, is when you do push leopards, especially if they're relatively young, you don't want to scare them. This is the fundamental stages of building trust between the cars and the animals. I apologize, I just need to concentrate that I don't drive into any logs, which could happen at any moment because I cannot see a thing just yet. But this is really cool. I'm going to stick with him as long as I can. I don't think I've ever spent good quality time. Now I'm trapped. Now I can't go in here. That's too long. I'll have to wait. I haven't spent very much quality time with this leopard before, so I think it's our chance. But phew, goodness gracious, and the allergies start again. Sneezing. Goodness gracious. Don't worry, quarantine. I promise I will move away from you as quick as I can. Now, as he walks here, look how he's looking. Hang on, he's seen something. What have you seen, boy? He's going in. Maybe it's a bird. Maybe it's a scrub hare. I don't know. Catch it, whatever it is. I don't care. Catch it. Oh, he's chasing birds. It was a little button quail. Did you see it fly off? I don't know if he's managed to get another one, but I did see the teeny tiny bird fly out of the grass. I don't think he's got anything. Let's see, maybe he's got a mouthful of feathers. No, he's got a mouthful of nothing at the moment. And it just shows you, even he's still quite young, you can definitely still see the playful side of quarantine, chasing after all sorts of things. He's so beautiful. I'm just going to keep going. What we're going to do is, as we drive, we'll keep it on him. I'll just go very slowly. I'll put the car into low range, and then we can just sort of just casually go very slowly, and as soon as there's a gap in the bushes, we will zoom around them as to give the other car a chance too. We've obviously got to play leapfrog. There he goes, he's jumping up to mark against the tree. He's not really urine spraying today. I've only seen him spray urine once. He's actually predominantly marking with his glands on his cheek. See, it's a bit thick here to try and get around. It does open up a little bit ahead. So once he goes over this little bolster, we'll move out of the way and we'll give the next vehicle a chance. And then we will try and get around him. But we'll just have to be a little bit patient this morning. But I'm so happy. I'm so happy. And I'm hoping he's going to stalk something for us as well. That would be the absolute cherry on top today. He's looking for something. He's not thin. But when you've got a big appetite and you're a big growing leopard like this boy, I suppose you've got to eat as often as you can. And he's lovely and relaxed with the cars. I'm going to move over now for the next car to just have a chance. We can still watch him. Hello, Mfo. So Mary, you were wondering if the leopards were affected by the vehicles at all. To an extent, Mary, they definitely are. But this is why we try and interact positively with the animals. So we're very fortunate. Most of the time we're seeing these leopards and lions and most of the predators from a very young age. So we start with that bond and quite early in their lives. And it's actually very important that we interact with them while their parents are around, because a lot of their behavioral traits will come from their parents. So for instance, let me just go back here. Karula is lovely. She is a very relaxed leopard. She doesn't mind anything at all. She walks right past the car. Sometimes she gets a bit antsy and she starts hissing and stuff. I don't think I've actually ever been hissed at by Karula. So you just got to give them space and read their behavior. And he's very young, not very young, very calm. He doesn't mind us at all. He's super relaxed, and that's really great for us. So we try and, of course, keep this bond for as long as possible. But it is going to open up again. and hopefully what we will do is I can start to see a couple of little gaps where I will be able to sort of zoom through and get on the other side of him. Because if we can get in front of him, that would be beautiful. I'll rather reverse and we can look at him walking towards us so you can all get some really nice screenshots. I think we're going to have a good morning. I have a very, very good feeling about this leopard sighting today, and I hope that you all have the same feeling that I do. Wonderful. Okay, we can go past now, which is good. Alright. Are there Maningi mobbers coming? Luto! Oh, you've just made my day. So apparently there's actually not many cars for the standby. I can't for the sighting. I cannot believe that. That's unbelievable. Well, we'll take full advantage of it. Yet as long as he doesn't go fast and go fast asleep, then I'm quite happy to follow a leopard that is on the move. And I'm trying to try and see. There's gaps coming, but you just got to be strategic as when you take these gaps. Maybe we'll do one here. You ready, Craig? We're going to go just off the road. We'll try and get in front of him again. Please don't hit a log. I'm going to stand up so I can try and see. He moves so quickly. You'll be surprised as to how fast a leopard can really walk. Just their sort of snail pace. He's not really on the move just yet. Duck through these bushes. Watch your heads here. Okay, I'm going to turn around. Just want to get a bit further ahead. I'm in low range and now I can't drive quickly. Okay, let's turn around here. Woo, you've got to be quick with your maneuvers as well. This is always the hardest part, is trying to pull out in time. Now you see we're bouncing around, of course. Haha, we've all got the same ideas. Oh, sorry, I've just driven everyone into a tree. Let me go back. Okay, let's hope he's still coming this way because I can't see him anymore. Where is he? Oh no. No, he's coming. I'm just going to pull up over here. Now you're going to see how close he gets as well. It's really amazing. He'll come right past me. Oh, he's just beautiful. He really does make your head turn. And I find this with some of the animals out here. Not all of them, that they've just got such a presence about them that when they do come walking past, it is just the most amazing thing. You can't help but turn your head. It's like a big elephant bull and must. You don't even need to hear him or see him or smell him, but you definitely know that somebody's coming past you. And he's going to walk right close. You'll see how close he gets to the car. Wow, look at this, he's coming right here. Now as he walks past, Mary, you're wondering if I'm ever tempted to touch a leopard as it walks past, or any of the animals. No, not really. He's just looking at us as I just turn to watch him as he walks away. And no, I can't say that I am. But definitely when I've had guests in the car, and it happened even with South African, the particular group of South Africans that have been on safari many times, actually they were friends of the owners of a particular reserve, and I'd driven them many times. And just to give you an idea of how excited the animals can, or people can get, of course, with wildlife coming so close, and we often forget that they are wild and we cannot reach out and touch them. And I was driving and there was a herd of elephants moving, and then we stopped. And this one elephant walked past the car, and this woman stuck her arm out like that to try and touch the elephant. My goodness, and luckily I was just about to start and carry on moving. So as she went to touch it, I just turned the car away, so we put ourselves further and further between the elephant, because I don't know what a matriarch would have done if you were to touch her when she had her calf next to the car. That would have been very, very dangerous. So luckily that didn't happen in the end. I'm going to go past very quickly. We're just going to play leapfrog like this. I think it's quite nice to do. This is so wonderful. So yeah, it's so cool. I'm so excited to be out here with this leopard. Now, I'm not sure what Byron's got, but we're going to try and jump in front of this big cat again. Let's go back into Byron's vehicle so he can show you what he's got.
Don't jump in front of the big cat, Taylor. It might eat you. I'm so glad she got to find that beautiful male. It's always nice to see a big male leopard and follow him around. And that takes the pressure off me, so I don't have to look as hard. But I have found a vulture. But now this vulture's crop is very, very full. Can you see that? That crop is that little sack that you can see protruding on the chest. And that's a very, very full vulture at the moment. So I wonder if there isn't a kill nearby or around. However, it is the only vulture here, so I doubt there is a kill. I think possibly what happened is it may have been feeding on something yesterday and perched itself in that dead leadwood to rest for the night, and then probably start flying around as the morning starts warming up. You get those thermals rising, and that's what vultures use to fly around. So I'm sure that's what will happen, is I don't see any other vultures around here. So possibly just slept in that tree for the night. Now I'm on Arethusa, and I'm heading towards the airstrip. I found another bird I'd like to show you. I'm just going to try and move a little bit closer. Same tree, Seb, but at the bottom, that first little green section. Have a look at that. Can you see that green section at the bottom? So as you go up the main stem, just go into the center there, you'll see there's a bird sitting in there. Keep going out, keep going, keep going. And you see that? Keep going, a little bit closer to the right a bit. There, up. There it is, center of the screen.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Can you all see that? Going a little bit closer, it might be. No, left, it's a squirrel. There. Straight.
Oh, okay, got it.
There we go. The African green pigeon. So, Buttons, you asked an interesting question, and Bex, can you just read that word again to me, please? Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear that. You wanted to know if I've ever seen vultures practice urohydrosis. For those of you who are unsure what that is, it's when birds defecate or urinate on their legs to help cool themselves down or help regulate temperature. So Buttons, I'm trying to think. I haven't seen vultures doing it. Birds that I have seen doing it a lot are the storks. The storks tend to do it a lot with those long legs, especially marabou storks. But I haven't seen vultures doing it, but I think they do, if I'm not mistaken. I think they do. But I've just never seen it personally. But I've seen a number of stork species do it. Saddle-billed storks, I think, do it as well, and as I said, the marabou storks definitely. Nice to see that green pigeon too. Very, very beautiful bird. Still sitting there, and the light on it at the moment is incredible. You can see that bright kind of orange and yellow beak. And it is really green, so it blends in very, very well. Ladybug, no, they don't have green eyes. It's, I think, just with the light reflecting on it now. I'll try to see if I can get a picture of the eye, maybe. I think they've got, like, darker eyes, if they're not, or yellow, if I'm not mistaken. Let's have a look. Let's see if I can get a picture. I don't think they've got green eyes. It's almost like a whitish color. White, yellow. Let's see. If you have a look there, let's see if you can get this quickly. Can you see that? Let me. Is it right there? See that? So it's like a yellowish white coloration, almost that color of the eye. But look at the beautiful colors on that bird. Really is spectacular. Beautiful green. Look like a little bit of blue on there from this picture. See that? Might just be a bit of iridescence. Nice to see the green pigeon. A lot of birds around. Starlings flying about at the moment. There was that squirrel in the tree that we saw earlier. There are actually quite a few pigeons in that tree. Green pigeons. Fluttering about. So as I said, I'm going to head towards Arethusa airstrip and see if there's any activity on the airstrip. Let's see what animals we can find around there. No, we still need to think of a way to catch Tristan out. I'm trying to think. Maybe we can ask him to wave at us while he's in the elephant sighting, so I can pretend that I can see him. Or something silly like that. I don't know. Let's head to him, though. He's got some elephant he'd like to show you.
We do indeed, Byron, and it's been so amazing just to sit here with them and listen to the sounds of them feeding off this big marula and watching them all congregating around the tree and trying to shuffle each other around for the best spots that they have. So you can see them, they're all just kind of in the shade. I think that's part of the reason why they've stayed for so long, is not only do they have this beautiful food item, but there's also a nice bit of shade being cast by some of the other bigger marulas that are around, and so it's the perfect place just to spend time and feed. What's interesting though is the amount of movement of elephants around them. So we've had the elephants coming around the back and going into this thicket, and then there were more of them straight behind that were coming down to join them. So hopefully we'll all see them starting to slowly move out, but for now they're really happy where they are. It's got nice shade, like I say, and food, and for us it's just so pleasant to sit here with this morning sun. It's nice and warm now, and watch these elephants just slowly go about their business. You can see the females are now starting to flap their ears quite a bit, so the temperature has really risen in the last half an hour. It's gone from being quite cool to being quite warm. The sun is starting to heat up a little bit, and so for an elephant with a big body, that sun is going to be getting very warm, and that's why the ears are starting to move now. The ears are starting to flap just to circulate that blood around and start to cool the blood down and keep their temperature at an optimal level so that they don't overheat. But it really is something quite phenomenal just to sit with elephants. It's one thing when you're in a vehicle and you watch them and you kind of spend time with them, but as soon as you're on foot, it's a completely different feeling. It's a very special feeling to be with a herd of ellies and to watch them go about their business. I've read a whole thing the other day about how the sounds that elephants make is very much like that of dolphins, so it's very low frequency sound, and that they are trying to see if that it can work for therapy, particularly of certain children that have problems with their brain function. So autistic children, they want to use the elephant sounds. They say that it promotes the release of endorphins through the brain, and that you then start to be able to feel more happy and feel more encouraged with life. And so they're trying to use the sounds of elephants, much like they do with dolphins, to try and get these children to come out of their shells a little bit and to try and help them with the diseases and the conditions that they have, which is really quite amazing. It's incredible to think that an animal that size would be able to produce a sound that can trigger chemicals in our brain to be released. It is phenomenal. Now, there is a car that's going to probably come past because they may have heard the elephants, and they're going to probably have a little watch of them, but it shouldn't disturb the ellies too much. The ellies should be quite fine. Like I say, they're quite happy with where they are, and a vehicle is something that they know a lot, so they won't be worried about that. But if we do see a car, the only problem is that we have to be a little bit careful, is that if there is a vehicle and the elephants do decide to move, that we're not in the path the elephants want to move in. But for now, everything looks quite relaxed, and the yellies are still feeding away peacefully. Mitch 1011, you said that earlier I was talking about tuskers and you're not sure what that means. Well, a tusker is generally an elephant within Africa, so we'll just address two different sides of this. But in Africa, a tusker is referred to as a male or female with very, very large tusks. So tuskers in the past, in Kruger would have been, or in the whole of Africa, where elephants that had tusks over 100 pounds, that was referred to as a tusker. Now they've become termed super tuskers because there's so few of them around. But now a tusker would be anything that is probably around, I would say anywhere from 60 to 80 pounds per tusk. So they're really, really big, long ivory that comes all the way down. And we're talking about males that are standing almost 4 meters tall and their tusks are touching the ground. So that's what we refer to in a tusker. Now in Asia, it's a little bit different because the Asian elephant, a lot of the males and females don't have tusks. So they refer to a tusker as any male that actually has tusks and are quite thick and large. And it's really, they were telling me, I was actually speaking to some guys in Sri Lanka where they get Asian elephants, they were saying 4% of their population has tusks. So when we think about here in Africa, we're so spoiled that pretty much I would say it's about 90% of our population has tusks. There are a few that have this genetic recessive gene where the tusks do not grow out, but really most of ours have them. So when we refer to tuskers here in this environment, we're talking about these big old males with these massive long tusks that come down, and it really is something amazing to see. To see a tusker in the wild is something that I can't describe. Now, I've been lucky enough to see one of the 100-pounders in Kenya, and it is quite something. You don't realize how big those tusks are until you see them in real life. And luckily in South Africa, we have an elephant museum in Kruger National Park, which has had the 7 biggest elephants that we had in the Kruger, and they managed to recover all their tusks after the varying individuals died of varying reasons. And you can go to that museum and you can stand right up against these tusks, and if I stand and I put my arm up like this, I can't even reach the top of some of those tusks. So that gives you an idea of how big and wide they are, and they at the lip are like this. It's really quite something. Right, so we're going to sit with our ellies a little bit longer, I think, and hope that these ellies start to come out so we can actually get some better views of them. It's been a bit frustrating with them stuck in the thicket from a sort of show point of view, but from a personal point of view, it's been absolutely fantastic. And so while we sit here and see if we can get a better visual, let's go across to Byron and see what he's up to this morning.
I've just got to the airstrip and I found something really great to show you. Look at this family of warthogs. It's a female with 4 sub-adults. They are just moving through this opening. There's a lot of green grass in that at the moment to feed on, so it's a perfect little spot for these warthog. They like the shorter grass. You can see as they're moving around, those snouts very close to the ground, feeding on the green shoots that are up at the moment. And this female's done very well to raise 4 youngsters to that age. I mean, they're quite big already, which is good. So they've done well. I enjoy seeing the warthogs. I think they've got such character. See, they've been rolling in the mud a little bit, especially that female. She's been digging in some mud. You can see, look at those tusks covered in mud. She's been wallowing around. And do that to protect their skin. Also cool down a little bit, but mainly get rid of ticks and fleas. Very peaceful out on the airstrip at the moment. There's swallows everywhere flying around at the moment. You might be able to hear them. Just in front of me, if you just have a look over here, You might be able to see the swallows on the screen. They're flying, diving around. But the little swallows, it's sometimes difficult to get them on camera. Look at that. So red-breasted swallows, barn swallows. That's what I've seen so far. Pretty soon some of them will start migrating. Migrate north for the winter. Oh, Warthog was so relaxed. Well, Siseta is very, very peaceful at the moment. Lovely. Ash, if you have a look, we might see little tusks protruding already. You asked when will they get their tusks? No, actually, I'm looking closely. I can't see. So I'm not sure. No, these. So Ash, you asked if when they grow horns. So they're not horns. They're tusks that they have, which is basically a modified tooth that comes out the side of their mouth, and that's to protect themselves. And it's basically enamel and dentine. I think that's what makes up a lot of the tusk. So that's to protect themselves. They'll use that to fight and to dig in the mud, as you could see from that adult. Now, I'm not too sure, Ash, exactly at what age these youngsters get there. These little piglets start growing tusks. But if you look closely, you can see they've got those very white tufts of fur and hair around the mouth. Now, that is to basically make predators think they have got tusks. So even though they don't, it might look like it. So it's a way to try and deter predators from hunting them. So a very interesting little trick that the warthogs, and look how they feed on their knees. So they grow those long whiskers, and that will look like tusks. So Ash, I think probably around a year old, you'll start seeing tusks forming, and then William, you asked at what age do they reach adulthood? I'm not sure with Warthog. I think it's about 3 years old. But it's always difficult to gauge these animals unless you follow them and you know when more or less they were born. If there's a family in an area, excuse me, I'm talking too much. And there's a family in the area, then you might be able to see from when they're born, and you can gauge the age that way. But these ones look they look 8 months to a year old. They're quite big already. So probably start developing tusks soon, and then adulthood maybe around 2 to 3 years. I would say 2 years, 3 years old. From one sounder of Warthog to another, Taylor's got some. Let's go have a look at how old they are.
We do indeed, and well, this is potentially a meal for Quarantine, who we've now lost, as he went off-road, and I tried to follow him. I think I got about 50 meters off the road, and when I went, oh, no, this is not going to work out very well. I couldn't see him anymore. The grass was, crawling into the car, or covering the entire car. There were lots of bush willows. I couldn't see the stumps on the ground. It was just a disaster, and we were going down in towards the drainage system. So I waited and I waited and I waited for him to come back, and I'm still glancing over my shoulder, looking down the cut line to see if I can see him moving around. But he could have already caught something. He could have caught something small, like a scrub hare, that wouldn't have necessarily let off a an alarm call, especially when you get caught by a big leopard. But I wish that he would come this way, because there's a big family of warthogs here. And what I'll do is, once we have a look at this one, we'll go up closer, and they're just off standing to the right of the road. Now they look a bit wet. I don't know if they've been in the mud or if it's just from the dew on the grass. Let's go have a look. Alright. William, now you were asking earlier, you asked Byron if he knew at what age do the little ones turn into adults. That's a very good question. Let's have a look at them, because there's a whole family here. They must be living not too far from here. That is a tough one. I would say they become adults at around, let's go for about a year. I think a warthog at a year is able to reproduce. A female will be able to produce. A male most likely won't be mating at that age, because there'll be bigger, stronger boars about that he'll have to compete with. So I reckon only a couple of years later will a male be able to sexually reproduce. So I'm not sure, but we'll have to do some proper research. But that's just, of course, a guess. That's an absolute guess of mine. Even by 6 months, they're quite big. These pigs are a few months old now, must be about 4 months old. They were all born towards the beginning of the year, so they've grown very quickly. So we'll see. Next year we might see them with a little... Hang on, what was that? Sorry, I'm just checking in the distance again. I thought I heard a noise. No, it's the hurricane quail, sorry. I thought that maybe it was Mr. Q coming out of the bushes somewhere and startling somebody. But it doesn't sound like it. But a good spot to actually check is to come and check around here this afternoon. Let me go forward and we get another view. He loves these marula trees along the Mala boundary, and we've seen him here before. We were actually talking about it. Hello? Don't run, it's just me. I'm going to pretend like I'm going past, and then we'll look through this gap, because then we'll see the others. Now, Mario, you've said that this lot of warthogs, there they are, all feeding. I hope my sneezes don't scare them away. Excuse me. Sorry, Mario, you said that these little piggies were a lot hairier than the ones at Arethusa, and that's definitely a possibility. So we see that with a lot of animals. It's just genetics. So possibly mom is quite hairy too, and they've taken on that gene. And that's all right. It actually will work into their benefit, especially coming into winter. It'll help them keep a little bit warmer. The hair on a warthog is not soft. It's quite bristly. I'm trying to think, if you ever touched a wired-haired dog before, if you times that by 10, even more wiry than that, and hard, thick bristles covering their body, that's what a warthog feels like, with smooth skin, very, very smooth skin. And of course, the only reason why I know what a warthog feels like is because at one time in my life, we used to have a warthog around camp named Emma, who we rescued as a baby, and we saw her through till adulthood. She was the naughtiest warthog I've ever seen and ever had the privilege of interacting with my life. I had no shoelaces on any of my shoes because she chewed them all. She caused such havoc. And it's probably your very distant cousin that I'm talking about. Look what it's doing. I wonder if it's got a bone in its mouth. You see how it's sort of biting down on something? Warthogs are also masters at eating fruit, so it could be a seed of some sort. Just listening to see if I can hear any grinding. It's quite very, very interesting. Now, I'm not exactly sure if it is a bone or what it is. It looks like whatever she is eating is getting slightly smaller because she's chewing a little bit quicker. Maybe it was a bulb. Oh, there we go. Bits of it fell out. So it must have been a bulb of some sort. Now, warthogs don't have the greatest digestive system. They're not ruminants. So, for instance, like a giraffe, like impala are, like kudu, like wildebeest, they are the best, or they have the best digestive systems out here. They really get as much of the nutrients out of their food as possible. And if you've ever picked up a ruminant's dung before, you'll notice that when it's dry, I wouldn't recommend picking it up when it's wet. You can actually crumble it and use it to help determine wind direction. That's how fine the leftover bits of vegetation are. There's not much left of it at all. Warthogs, not too bad, much better than a rhino elephant's digestive system, probably even a little bit better than a hippo's. Because when you do look at their dung, and if we find some dung we will show you, it is very, very fine. But they eat everything, fruit, they dig up bulbs, but their preferred food is grass and grass roots. And at the moment we've been seeing them eating the grass seeds, which is quite funny as well. You can get some really good pictures. Hey guys, right, let's moving on. We're actually not too far from the open plains. Let's go onto the open plains and see what we can find. Maybe our luck will continue, and I can't help but look over my shoulder down the long windy road. Right, so we're going to head up ahead, and we're going to move on up ahead, and hopefully we're going to find some interesting birds, and maybe some cheetah, maybe some buffalo. I'm not sure what we'll see, but I'll let you know in a moment. But for now, let's go across to Tristan and see how his morning walk is going.
Well, Taylor, our morning walk has not gone very far. We've been loving just spending so much time with these ellies. It's been so cool just to sit and watch. And just now we had one of the females that was way up with her trunk reaching into the top boughs of that tree. It was quite incredible to watch. And it was just amazing just to sit and be a part of it and listen to them. And you can hear them grumbling around us. So there's some that are a little bit further to the west, some to the south, and then this main sort of section of herd that is here with a few females and their young ones. And they've been communicating with one another, and then just sitting and listening to all the bird sounds. It really is quite something. Often we take for granted when we're out here and we're working and we're driving and we're walking, just to actually stop and appreciate what is happening around us. And so sitting with an elephant herd like this, listening to the morning calls of the monotonous larks, the button quails, the black-crowned chagras that have also been calling. It's been quite impressive. It's been really, really a nice way to spend the morning. And like I say, it's now starting to warm up as well. So just to sit and kind of thaw in the sun after a coolish start to the morning has been really quite special. So I've been very spoilt this morning, and I see the ellies have slowly started to move now. I wonder if what they're going to do is start heading for water. On that area there, if we just go a little bit east, there's a nice big mud wallow, and I think that they might be heading that way. So it might be worth us trying to see if we can potentially get towards where that mud wallow is and see if we can get them in action, wallowing a little bit. Right, so we're going to carry on and try and see if we can get ourselves into a position where we can see these ellies and see if they are indeed heading to the mud wallow. And while we do that, let's go across to Byron and see how he's doing with his warthogs and whether they're at a mud wallow yet.
Just let me know if you go live or something, huh?
They're coming to us. So he's still sitting with his warthogs just because they're so relaxed, and it's so wonderful to see warthogs like this. Often you get a glimpse of them, they run away quite quickly, they can be shy. But I think at the moment there's a really, really wonderful sighting of them, having them so close to us. Now, I think there might actually be a bit of a delay at the moment. I don't think Rebecca's hearing me properly, so we might have to double check that. So Donald, you mentioned how the warthogs go down on their front legs to feed and asked if they can't bend their heads very well. Well, they can, Donald, but it's a little bit easier for them and less effort if they just go down on their knees like that. It's a little bit easier for them to feed. Get really low down and dig that snout into the ground and get to those roots and to those grass shoots that they really, really enjoy. So that's exactly why they bend down like that. But you'll see sometimes, I mean, that one just behind that female you can see is actually standing and feeding. Oh, there it's gone down onto its knees. But they do stand and feed too. The female's doing it now while she's walking. And it's really starting to warm up now. It's a lovely, lovely morning. And again, it's so peaceful out here in the clearing. I'm surprised there aren't more animals around. I would have thought there'd be some wildebeest or impala, but what's probably happened is those animals have moved off into the thickets to go and feed for the day, maybe head towards some water, and also look for shade. I think today's going to be a hot day. It feels that way already. It's not even 8 o'clock in the morning yet, and it's already starting to warm up quite a bit. Lance, good question. If the warthog tusk, you want to know if the warthog tusks are made of ivory? Now, I don't think so, Lance. No, I don't think it's ivory. So, I think I need to get this right, and I stand to correction. So, maybe some of you can research this and just let me know. I think the warthog, the elephant tusks, it's enamel. It's a dentine and enamel. Those are teeth, modified teeth too, the tusks. They basically extended in sizes. That's what the tusks are. But I think the combination of the amount of enamel and dentine cause it to become ivory. So I think it's a bit harder than an actual tusk. Now, the tusk of a warthog, I think, is just a modified tooth. I don't know to what extent the makeup is of the tusk, though. So maybe one of you can find out for us and let me know. I don't know the exact the makeup difference between the tusks of the warthog and the elephant tusks. But I know for a fact they don't take warthog tusks and make ivory out of it. It's only elephant tusks that they do that. So anyway, I'm going to move on from the airstrip now. Let's see what else we can find. Hopefully we can find some elephant. Speaking of their tusks. Maybe something else. Actually, let's go this way around. Try a different route. Now, let's head back to Taylor, get an update from her on cheetah plains.
So we've just turned around from the open plains. Can you believe it, that the only thing I saw at a great distance was 3 wildebeest? That was it. Nothing else, not even any birds other than a couple of monotonous larks that I could just hear calling, which is unusual. I suppose, no, it's not unusual, because every single time we have a nice day, like for instance this morning, very little wind, nice and warm, we never see birds, ever. But then bring on the cold and rainy, wet, damp days, and thankfully the birds are all around, and they really are a saving grace. So I suppose we can't complain when we don't do birding on nice days, because it gives us an opportunity to then focus on all the other animals, and they've definitely been playing ball today. So I prefer to have, on miserable days when the bigger animals are hiding about, to have all the soggy birds. The reason why I've come back down the same route is I just want to go and have a look one last time to see if Quarantine perhaps didn't pop back on the road, or see if he has crossed, because there's definitely a chance that he's still between this drainage system, which we're going to pass, and 3 in a row Pan Road. And so we'll just do another couple of loops around there and hopefully see. Luckily for us, the sand is also quite nice. Well, not here, the sand is not great for tracking, but as we go up through this dip, it improves. But who knows, maybe he's just come to sit here at this little wet area on some mud to keep nice and cool. Let's just have a quick scan. Nothing yet. Can't see anybody hiding on the banks. No snipes. No coots, which would be typically seen in an area like this. Nothing. Not even any jacanas. Okay, that's fine. We'll just carry on then. Right. See if he has maybe cross through here. There's a couple of very prominent game paths, which sounds impossible to believe because it's so thick. There's my game path. I made a big one. I drove off of the road because I heard some birds shouting. Some priniers were alarming, but I don't know, maybe they were not alarming at quarantine. They could have definitely been alarming at something else. Let's see. Still nothing coming out here. Oh, watch your head. Right, so what we'll do is we're going to quickly shoot back up towards the pads and drive one or two more roads to see if he hasn't zigzagged around here. But speaking of leopards, and we've been chatting about them for most of the morning, Tristan would like to tell you about the leopards that occur in the southwestern corner of the Sabi Sand.
Well, Taylor, I'm assuming that you're talking about the southwest of this northern area and not the southwest of the Sabi Sands, because you would know just fine the leopards of the southwestern Sabi Sands. But if we're talking about, we can go through both because we've got a bit of time. We're waiting for our ellies to come out. They're still stuck in the drainage line there. But if we're talking about here in the northern sector, the southwestern area will have quite a few different individuals that we don't really see much of here. So probably the most obvious one, which has been seen once or twice, is Salahesh, and then her recent cub Tiani that's gone off on her own. You've got Anderson male that is in that area, and you have the Ingrid Dam female. You have Ingrid Dam female's last cub that's come out of, that's also on her own and independent. The Tiani hang around, Sakani hang around there for a while. There was Inchila, then there's Insele, who's got one eye, so much like what Safari had, except her eye doesn't bulge like Safari's did. And then she's got a cub recently that is also around, a young male that hasn't left her yet. Then we used to see Moya, or Nanga female, that is right up against the Londolozi boundary. And I'm just trying to think who else. Then there was Flat Rock male, who hangs around the Sand River and comes from Lion Sand side and came all the way up into this area. I'm just trying to think who else there was. I think that's about it. So there's quite a few different characters on that side of the world, which is not far at all, that hang around. And I'm sure some of those younger females will come this way. I know Sakani's been seen here, Inchila's been seen on Djuma. So the younger females will move around. And I'm hoping that at one stage, or at some point, Tiani starts to move this way and we get to see more of her. She's one of my favorite leopards. She's so beautiful. Now, if we're talking about southwest of the Sabi Sands, then that's a very different area altogether. And I'm actually not 100% sure of all the new females that they have down there, but the big males down there would be Imbavala, Mashaben male, who comes from Londolozi. Imbavala was born to a female on Lion Sands. There was Shavona Keller. And in terms of females, there's the Klaraluni female, there is Scotia in Zilo, there would have been Little Bush female, just trying to think who else, Porcupine Ridge female. So there's quite a number of different females down right in the south, but there it's quite difficult because a lot of them go in and out of the Kruger along that Sabi River. We see quite a few females that we actually don't know, and a lot of dispersal males that come through, and because it's prime leopard habitat, there's a lot of different individuals, but that's quite far afield, so it's very seldom that we're going to get individuals from there coming into this area. Every now and then we might get a male, so Mvula comes from the southwestern Sabi Sands. His mother was down on Lion Sands and is the half-brother of that Mbavala that we're talking about. I suppose you could call it half-brother. It would be nephew or cousin. Cousin would be the best word, because the sisters, one was the mom for Mvula and the other one was the mom for Mbavala. But unfortunately, both those females, as far as I know, have passed away. And it's not surprising given that... Oh, sorry. Ferg, let me get you unstuck there. Ferg has walked into what is known as a wachabikkie. Now, wachabikkie in Afrikaans means wait a bit. Sorry, Ferg, let's get you unstuck. There we go. And let's get your cable unstuck. So wachabikkie is known in Afrikaans. Wach means wait and bikkie means a bit. And there you can see the exact reason why it's named that is because when you come into contact with it, those sharp little hooked thorns just grip into you and you end up then having to stay right where you were and not be able to move at all. Now, the actual name for this is a buffalo thorn, and it gets its name because of these little hooked thorns that resemble a little bit like a buffalo's horn. So that's where the name came from. This is an old dry one, and they can be an absolute pain when trying to negotiate this area and walk around. They really are very difficult. But let's carry on and see. Like I say, I'm hoping these ellies are going towards this water. James Hello James, how are you? I hope you're well. You asking me what my most memorable sighting is of Salahesh. Phew, I've had lots. I think we have to maybe qualify this into different sort of categories, but my most memorable sighting of her on foot was when she had Tiani, and Tiani was about, at that stage, she was about 9 weeks old. And she had her at the lodge, and we ended up spending a lot of time, in the lodge trying to walk guests back and forward. And the one day I was walking along the path there, and we were going towards one of the rooms on the far end of the lodge, and in front of me on the pathway, a Salahesh came out, and she was now just leaving the cub to go off and probably start to go and do a bit of hunting or scent marking. And so saw her coming, and I was with my tracker at the time, who was a really incredible guy. His name was Mumps, and he said to me, no, just come, we're going to just stand off the road. And we probably stood off maybe 4 meters from the path, and that leopard came all the way along, just walked past us, gave us one glance, and carried on walking. Now, to be that close to an adult female is really quite something. So in terms of on foot, that was amazing. The trust that she had, and the fact that she knew that we weren't a threat, and she just carried on and went on her way, was really quite incredible. In terms of being on vehicles, sure, this is tough. I've had so many good ones with her. I mean, so many times that she saved us when we've been in a leopard drought, or have really struggled. But I think my best sighting of her, I've got two. One, when she was hunting cane rats in front of the lodge the one day. I watched her for maybe an hour chasing this cane rat, jumping into bushes and diving. She looked like the Puma logo as she was diving into these trees, in and out, and this cane rat was running around, and it was really just a chaotic sighting. And she eventually caught this cane rat after about an hour and a half of trying to hunt it, which was really quite amazing to watch, that sort of determination for her to get it. And the other one was her killing a bushbuck. She managed to grab this bushbuck, killed it. She then went and walked for a long period of time. It was maybe an hour, and she eventually found Tiani, and we followed her from killing the bushbuck all the way to Tiani, followed Tiani and her back, and then watched the two of them at the carcass, and then watched her take it up the tree and show Tiani how that all works. And it was just such an incredible sighting, and to be able to have spent 3 hours watching her do that was just insane. And then that night Anderson rocked up, and we had the three of them together. So to have Salahesh, Tiani and Anderson together was just mind-blowing. So those are probably my favorite Salahesh sightings. Now, we apparently are doing a bit of a switcheroo. So I'm talking about leopards, and now Taylor has managed to find some big, large grey elephants. So let's go across to Taylor and see what they're doing.
We do. I've just got one for the moment, but I can hear a herd in the distance, which we'll follow up on. But it is a beautiful elephant bull standing underneath a marula tree. And I think what he's doing is he's just stretching up every now and then, breaking the odd branch off, and he's actually feeding on the bark at the moment. He's feeding on the cambium layer, which is quite nice. So it sounds like he's eating an ice lolly. He's chewing about, flapping his ears, just trying to keep the bugs off of him. And he's got a nice spot at the moment. Obviously, you can see he's quite covered by all the vegetation around him. And that's sort of the thicket that quarantine was going into, so you can imagine it was very hard for us to try and follow. And all of you know I always do my best attempts at off-roading. Brent is my mentor when it comes to learning how to off-road. I think he does it the best. So yes, we did a bit of that with Tingana, but I thought, no, it's a bit difficult going into a drainage system in summer. But this elephant, though, on the other hand, wouldn't have a problem following quarantine. He would have just walked exactly the same path that quarantine would have, and probably would have had it easier with their thick skin, so they can just push through all of the trees, all of the branches, the thorns, step over the fallen logs. They don't really mind at all. And if you look very carefully, you'll see that he is secreting that oily substance from his temporal gland just to the left of his eye. So I don't know if he's in must. I can't see his nether regions to see if there's any dribbling of urine or staining between the back legs. I can't smell him. We've got the wind in our favor. The wind is blowing down towards him. So it's a bit difficult to tell, but he's very relaxed at this distance. He'll be far away. And he almost looks like he's sort of having a bit of a siesta too while he chews on some marula tree. What are you going to do next? Today is going to be hot, hot, hot. We may even get lucky and catch some elephants in the water. For Buttons Cockatoo, you're wondering, what is as big as an elephant but weighs nothing? So it's a joke. What is as big as an elephant that weighs nothing? And it'll be something so simple, but I don't know it. Okay, can I have the answer, please? So, a joke from Buttons Cockatoo. What is as big as an elephant but weighs nothing? I have no idea, but the answer is its shadow, which is very, very clever. Well done. Our Ellie is moving towards us. Let me reposition. I can see him coming out. Please go to the dam. We're not far from the 3 in a row pan. It's just up ahead, about 80 meters away. So maybe if we stick with him, he'll go there and give himself a splash. Oh, he's beautiful. He's walking on the road. Oh, well, yes, you can see he's in must. Look at how the urine is pouring out. And, of course, if you've got children, this might be a good idea to turn away in case we do a close-up. But that is not him going to the toilet. He's actually having a scratch against that silver cluster leaf. Have a listen to the sounds. No, he stopped scratching. So, of course, with an elephant bull in must like this, we're not going to get too close to him, though he's very relaxed. He hasn't really shown us any bother at all. Now, Adam, you're wondering how far do the low frequency sounds that the elephants produce travel? It depends, but from what I've heard and from what I've read, it can be as far as about 20 kilometers in distance that they're able to communicate with each other, which is quite impressive. That's far enough. What is on his face? Is it an injury or is it a piece of bark? I can't see what it is. Let's see, he's going straight towards the pan, so we'll let him get up ahead of us and just watch him. I don't want to upset him today. What are you going to do, boy? You're going to come towards us? No, you've just found something else to eat. He's hungry. He's searching for all things delicious. Listen to the crunching. Come on, do a big crunch for us. No, he doesn't really seem to like that one. He keeps turning it around, trying to reposition it. You may have just heard the hurricane quails, button quails calling in the distance. Oh, this is so nice that he's not so bothered by us. You know, and this is the other thing, is that obviously musk bulls have this stigma attached to them. Oh, that they're so aggressive and you need to watch out. And you do definitely have to watch out. You've got to be cautious around them. But they really aren't animals to be scared of. We're in cars, we can drive faster than they can chase us. And that's one of the reasons why I don't off-road, is because if you do need to get away quickly, the animals can probably move a lot quicker than you can through the vegetation, whereas if we've got a nice paved pathway to drive on, they can't catch us. Unless your car breaks down, then you could find yourself in a bit of trouble. But they're extremely agitated, they're frustrated. So take your worst day that you've ever had where you don't even want to hear the sound of people's voices anymore. And I suppose that's what the elephants must feel when they're in must. They have got one thing on their brain and one thing only. And if you come in between them and their goal, good luck and enjoy, because then you're going to find yourself a bit of a problem. But you've seen we've given him quite a bit of space. He hasn't showed us once that he's agitated with us, which is a great sign. And we'll just make sure we give him enough room so we feel as though we're not a bother. And he's going straight towards the pans. Let's hope he is going to have a drink. Vlogs by Natty, who is a new viewer. Hello and welcome, and thank you for watching. I hope to hear your name pop up a few more times with some questions. Now, you're wondering, what is must? Is it like being in heat? So I'll get to that. Let me just introduce myself in case you're not sure who I am. My name is Taylor. Oh, hello, boy. Yes, I know I pushed you a little bit there. Not really, didn't really push him, but I just moved the car a little bit, and he just said, no, you can actually see him just over there. Sorry, I'm just ducking because I was watching this bull quickly. So must is essentially an excited state that the elephant bulls come into, depending on how old they are and how many bulls, big dominant bulls in the area, will determine how long they come into must for, and well, whether they come into must at all, really. And he's a big bull, so the signs are the secretion from the temporal glands, the gland behind their eye, and then as well as dribbling of urine from, well, his penis. He dribbles a lot. He dribbles up to 100 liters every single day while he's in must. And he's just agitated and annoyed, and he doesn't have a tolerance for people, for any other animals. I mean, we had a sighting where I watched a must bull chase jackals around, and the jackals weren't sort of perturbed at all. They were just like, oh, come on, man, leave me alone. Just let me carry on with my day. I'm looking for some mice and rats to eat. And something as small as a teeny tiny little predator, which an elephant could squash underneath its foot, was upsetting this particular elephant. And elephants are normally tolerant. Normally they don't mind people, or people in cars. They don't mind other animals being around them. So it's always quite funny doing that. Right, going from one elephant to another. Tristan's on foot. Let's go take a look from his view.
We are indeed, Taylor. We've managed to get quite close to these elephants now. We used this big riverbed as a cover point, and we've just come up over the lip, and the whole herd is just spread out in front of us. It's really quite something to be very, very close. Now, you may wonder why I'm whispering, and that's because at the distance that we're at, these ellies would be able to hear us. So just trying to stay nice and quiet so that they don't pick up our sound and therefore attract any attention towards us. We're trying to view them, and the sort of object of a bushwalk is to try and watch these animals without interfering in their lives in any way. So for those of you that have just joined us, my name is Tristan, and on camera I've got Ferg with me today. And like I say, the point of the walk is just to be out here and to try and see if we can get a very different perspective to that of being on a vehicle, and to see all the different things, as well as to try and show you these animals from a perspective of being on foot. So we need to be a lot more quiet and a very different way that we approach them and move around them. Now you can see that they've stopped and they're listening a little bit, so they're trying to work out what's going on around them. Obviously we're in this little section here, so they can't see us and they can't smell us, but they're able to then hear what we're doing, and that's why I'm trying to whisper and stay as quiet as possible. But it is so incredible to be in amongst these elephants and to hear them and to watch them feed and dust bathe right in front of you without any barrier is really quite something. It's something that I cannot explain to you, and like I say, on foot is a very, very different feel. So it's super exciting. Now they are slowly dust bathing and moving along, but I think that they're going to go to a little waterhole that's not too far from here. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to just use the riverbed to follow along and pop up quite close to the waterhole, and hopefully that's where they're going to be mud bathing, and we'll get to see them splashing and drinking. It'll be really spectacular if that is the case. So for now, we've just got these visuals of them dust bathing, but maybe Ferg, if you come up here, you'll be able to see a little bit better. There we go. So you can see there that they've just stopped, and it's the mothers with all the little babies, and they're busy throwing dust over the top of their backs for two reasons. Now, one is that they are trying to exfoliate the skin and get rid of any sort of dead skin cells, and the second is just to help with parasite control. Now, I believe Taylor has also got elephants, and so it's going to be an elephant war between us and see who's got the better sighting. But she says her elephant's approaching the dam, so let's go across to her and see if ours will be at the dam by the time you get back.
We are indeed sitting with this elephant as it approaches one of the pans, but I don't know if he's coming for the water. You can see how he's just started to raise his head now, or if he's coming for us. See that, picking up bits of grass, displacement feeding. See, he's just picking it up. Let's see if he actually puts it in his mouth. No, dropping it on the ground. He's cheeky. So I'm going to reposition quickly, just so I get the better hand. I'm just going to position myself and keep this natural barrier between us. Right, settle down, settle down. It also doesn't help when your car doesn't go into reverse when you ask it first time. Stop, 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 stop. Don't have to behave like this. Now he's grumpy, he's annoyed. Like I said, he's going to find any You can watch him as he comes to us. No, 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 no. We've already had an argument this morning. I don't want to have another one. Do you understand me, Mr. Elephant? You stay there, and I'm going to park just here. I'm going to keep the dam between us, as much of the dam between us as possible, because that will make him feel a little bit more comfortable. Not that he's scared. What he's feeling at the moment is not scared, it's arrogance and cockiness, and he just wants to be the boss of us and dominate us, but we won't let that happen. He's got no reason to behave like this. He's got plenty of space. He's got 3 pans to choose from. And now he's going to have a little drink. Yes, big boy, I can see you smelling us. You have that trunk working overtime. I suppose elephants can also do displacement drinking if they wanted to, not just the feeding where they pretend to try and trick you. Now, I'm going to just watch him very carefully. I think that's exactly what he was doing, the displacement drinking. I don't know if I've ever seen an elephant displacement drink, but you can see his trunk's turning towards us. His attention is fully focused on us at the moment. Let's see, we'll give him a bit of room. We won't necessarily follow him into the bushes. So, Donald, you're wondering, how does an elephant's trunk work? Is it like a vacuum? Not quite. So there are thousands and thousands of muscles, small muscles, large muscles in an elephant's trunk, and it takes them up to about a year for them to sort of get the basics on how to work your trunk. Obviously, the older they get, the more experience they get, the stronger the muscles they get, so they have more control over it. But it does take a bit of time. And so when they drink water like that, they essentially are sucking the water up, holding about 10 liters, 11 liters of water in their trunk, and then they don't sort of suck it through like it's a straw. They then squirt it back into their mouths. And they'll do this a couple of times. But look at him there. You see, he's just standing, he's just in the shade, having a rest. He's still very curious with us. That trunk is still looking back, well, not looking back, but he's got his trunk turned back towards us, smelling us all the time, making sure we don't make any sudden moves. Right, my goodness, Elephant Day. I'm not the only ones that had elephants, but we're going to leave this bull now and follow up on some more calling in the distance. Byron has beat me to it and found a breeding herd already.
Have indeed just found a beautiful herd. They've moved through quite quickly past us, and possibly just going off, maybe heading towards some water as it starts warming up. But a herd of about 10 or 12 elephant that have just moved past us. Some youngsters. It's amazing how quickly they can disappear into the bush. No big bull like Taylor has got. We can't, no big bull around. It's mainly the females and the youngsters. They've all just moved off through the thicket. There they go. It is wonderful to see so many elephants, and I love spending time with the ellies. But it looks like these ones aren't interested in sticking around with us. They're moving on. And I do think that eventually they'll make their way towards some water. So those of you who've only just joined us, my name is Byron, and Seb is on camera with me this morning. We've been in search of everything this morning, really. We found some warthog. We were looking for leopards. We had leopard tracks this morning, but they were from last night. Nothing very fresh. No sign of lions. Taylor was very fortunate. She got to see a male leopard, and that's it for now. But we still got quite a bit of time left this morning. So we'll see what else we can find, and hopefully we'll get to find something else that's interesting. Maybe a big cat is still walking around. It's warming up, starting to warm up, and those big cats like lion and leopard do tend to go and look for shelter a little bit now as the day starts heating up. They prefer moving around when it's cooler, and I don't blame them really. They conserve their energy and they'll move around as soon as it cools down. A lot of spider webs around at the moment. Sorry, Rebecca, I couldn't copy you there. Can you please try read that again? Read that question again? Manny, you want... I'm not sure. I don't know if elephants know when they're going to rain. There's another elephant right next to us. This looks like a young bull. Oh, there's a huge herd. This is an extension of the herd that's just moved past us. So, Manny, I don't know. But I must be honest. I do think the animals have the ability to... Hang on a second. I'm just going to move forward. Hold on. Because I see some younger ellies that I'd like to show you. So, Manny, I do think these animals sense a change in the temperature and watch here in front of us. Watch here. There goes a little one. There we go. So, I do think they can sense the change, and so I suppose then they are able to kind of sense the coming of rain, perhaps the change in pressure. But I don't know. I don't know to what extent, Manny. Also, mainly females. There's some young males within this herd, but I don't see a big bull really following this herd. Claire, tip of the day. Well, I need to think of another one. I haven't thought of one just yet, Claire. Give me a few moments and I'll think of something interesting or a good tip. There we go. That's a nice view of them three here. Some elephant butts for the morning. Oh, listen to them. Did you hear that? Communicating with each other, that vocalization that the elephant do. Now, they may have sensed the other elephant in the area, but I do think they... I don't know if it's part of the same herd, or if they're just two different herds moving through the same area. That happens quite regularly. It's so nice when they do stand. Stand off to the left. I think that's why they're standing there, feeding on the grass. It's very interesting to see that. And I've noticed a massive change in what the elephant. Listen. That's amazing. Really, really great sound. So as I was saying, I've noticed how the elephant are feeding on the grass at the moment a lot more than anything else. Because the grass is so lush and full of nutrients, it's good feeding for the elephant. So they do change their diet slightly depending on the season. Now, I was just thinking that vocalization that the elephants do. Do any of you remember watching the first Jurassic Park movie? And that Tyrannosaurus Rex leans over the vehicle and gives a call. I wonder if they didn't get that sound from an elephant, because it sounds just like that. The way it makes it kind of growls almost, or that grumble that it gives off. Let me know what you think, but I think they may have recorded an elephant vocalizing and used it as a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Yes, Rebecca, these young males will often go into must before they leave the herd. The young males do go into must quite regularly, but what happens is if they're dominant males around, bigger bulls, they will suppress that must, and those males will be... They basically... It's almost because of the presence of the big males, the younger males go out of must immediately. They don't want to challenge those big males, so they go out of must. But the younger males within a herd, yes, you will see signs of it. It's not as prolonged and not as serious as it is in the big bulls, but you will see signs of it. You will see them sweating from their temporal glands. So there are signs of early must, but not nearly as severe as the adult males get it. Oh, I love spending time with the elephant like this. It really is so peaceful. Listen again. Again, that communication. And hey, it's me. You say you love the sound of the elephants and it's your favorite sound of Africa. And definitely is a beautiful, beautiful sound. Interesting sound, amazing sound. Trying to keep a little quiet just to hear if we get one of those vocalizations again. That one was snorting out of its trunk. Possibly a bit of dust got in there, blowing out of its trunk. I know Taylor went into some detail about the trunks. They are amazing creatures in the ability to use their trunks. Now, I'm going to stay with these for a little bit longer, but Tristan has got a baby he'd like to show you.
Well, we do. We've got a whole herd that's all around, and there are some little ones. At the moment, we can't see the little ones because they've gone behind a bush, but you can see some of the sub-adults that are coming out now, and the females that are just moving behind us now. I'm trying to whisper because it really is that we are very, very close. These elephants are right here, and the wind has changed a little bit, so we're just trying to stay as quiet as possible so we don't alert them and let them know where we're here. Now, I know you were talking about sounds of Africa and sounds of the bush. Well, I think I have two that really make up the sounds for me, and one is an elephant's low grumble that just is such an epic sound, and then the other is the roar of a lion. Both of those, and you know that you're in the middle of Africa and that you are in the wilds of Africa, and that to me is a very special thing. So the lion's roar and the elephant's grumble are the two that really, really, really get my blood pumping. Now, you can see that they are moving off into the thicket, so in all likelihood we're not going to be able to follow any further because of the way the wind is blowing, but we've had an incredible morning spent with them. It's not every day that you can spend 2 hours on foot with a herd of elephants, so we're going to start trying to get our way out of here, and while we do that, let's go across to Byron, whose elephants, I believe, are having a little nap.
They are indeed. Now, a lot of people often ask, do the elephants lie down when they rest? Do they sleep? Look at this. This elephant's very comfortable. It's just decided to lie down. Oh, look at that. Oh, that is wonderful. And the whole herd have moved into this area in the shade of a Vulture or African wattle. And they are standing in the shade, flapping their ears, cooling down, and just resting, taking some time to rest. Oh, this is really special, and they're completely comfortable with us. Because for them to lie down, they must be relaxed. See, I think there's another one to the back that's also decided to lie down. Watch, is the young one going to lie down? Oh, look at that. They've all decided that this is a great place to lay down. The adult female just threw some sand on her back. Wow, everyone, this is so special. Isn't this amazing? This is great. And the fact that they trust us enough to feel this comfortable to lie down, you know, that is something special. That is really something special. And look how the family unit stay together. And they keep an eye out for any potential danger. They'll stay close together. Every now and then they stand dead still and they just listen out and they smell and then they move and feed again. Very interesting behavior that elephant do. And one stops, it's like a signal is given out. They all stop and they all stand dead still. They don't move. The little baby just got up now. Donald, my understanding of that vocalization is it comes from the voice box itself, from the throat. It doesn't come from the trunk. It's not nasal. It comes from the throat area. That's where that vocalization comes from. A lot of people have been mistaken in the past, and they call it the stomach grumbling or stomach sound. It's not. It's a vocalization. It's not at all the stomach. And often people make a mistake and they'll say, "Oh, listen to those elephants' stomach grumbling." It's not that at all. Daniel, that's awesome. You're all the way from Scotland. I don't know how good my Scottish accent is, but Daniel, you say that it's the first time you've seen elephants laying down, and I'm so glad. There's still many firsts for a lot of our viewers on Safari Live, and it is very interesting behavior and very special behavior to see them lying down and resting. Daniel, which part of Scotland are you from? I'd love to go over there one day. One of my favorite beverages from Scotland. I'm going to sit with these Ellies a little bit longer. Tristan's still on foot, close to elephant. Let's go and have a look what they are up to.
So we're still with our elephants. We were going to try and get out, but they're right here. And so we're being absolutely spoiled to the most incredible elephant sighting on foot that I've had in a long time. This female has just moved an entire tree to get to these grasses that are growing underneath it, and she can be no more than 25 meters away. She's really very close, but she's completely relaxed. The wind luckily is blowing across us and away from her, so we're okay for now. But you can see how she's feeding on those nutrient-rich grasses that grew up between that tree, and made sure that she moved that where no other animal would have been able to do that, and she can then access these beautiful grasses. Now I'm hoping she's not going to be naughty and come any closer, because she's really at the limit of where we'll allow her to come. But it's not too much here that she would want to feed on. Most of her herd has moved off towards the back area, and so it's going to be a lot easier for us to stay here. I'm sure she's going to angle off now, which will be really, really good. But it's amazing. Some of the young ones in the back are suckling under the shade of a big marula. It's really quite special just to watch this herd moving around us and feeding, and the intricacies of what goes on is really quite incredible. You can see the little baby now is just trying to suckle from its mom, so it's not a tiny baby. That little one is probably about, I would say, 3-4 years old, so it's taking a chance suckling, but it's managed to get a bit of nutrients, and mom is resting in the shade now that it's getting hot, and so it's the perfect place for a little one to suckle. And I can't believe how relaxed this elephant that's closest to us is. It's really very, very chilled. Now, like I say, we've got to be a little bit careful because we are on foot and we don't want to irritate this ellie any more than we can, and if we can try and get out of here without it knowing we're here, then that will be good. But But you can see it's just feeding very close to us now. The rest of the herd is moving off, so in all likelihood this elephant will turn and go with the rest of the herd, and hopefully it does do that, and that will allow us then just to make our way slowly out following the drainage line. But isn't this insane? This is amazing. Like I say, this has got to be one of the best elephant sightings I've had on foot in a couple of months. It's been really quite spectacular, and we've just got everything in our favor. The wind has now changed again. We've got this beautiful big drainage line that allowed us to get very close without the ellies seeing us. And now we've got this beautiful little section where we've got some cover, so it's absolutely perfect. And that, coupled with the fact that we've got a relaxed herd, means that we've got the most special sighting possible. It's also just amazing to sit and listen to them, so you can hear every now and then the ear flapping and hitting the skin. You can hear them actually tearing the grass. That's how close we are. So it really is quite special. Now, we just have to be a little bit careful that no ellies come from behind us, but at this stage it looks like most of them have gone off. Now you can see there's a very big cow that's coming from the right hand side. She's a really large cow, and in all likelihood one of the matriarchs of this herd. You can see the size of her head in comparison to this younger female is much, much larger. And I think now it's getting a little too hot for them, so they're going to start making their way into this riverbed for a bit of shade. So it's probably our cue to start moving off and getting out of their way so that they can get out here. And like I say, we don't want to disturb them. The point of a bushwalk is to be able to view these things, but to get out without making any noise and disturbing the herd. And so while we do that, let's go back to Byron and allow this ellie to go on its business and for us to get out of here. Just stand still.
Elephants are still sleeping and resting here. This one hasn't moved. It's fast asleep, it looks like. That's amazing. That's interesting. And they can do this for half an hour, 10 minutes, half an hour, sometimes an hour, when they rest for a little bit. The animals don't sleep like we sleep. They don't need long periods of time to rest. So, but this is fascinating behavior. All of them are resting at the moment. The adults are kind of facing in different directions, possibly to keep an eye out for potential predators. And the two youngsters lying down, I can see that one is standing and nodding off. That is amazing, amazing behavior. It's really, really special. And Claire, getting back to your question, tip of the day. I think my tip of the day would be persistence. And I say that because this morning, we didn't really have much luck finding any animals, but you can have days like that in the bush where you can drive and drive and drive and struggle to find animals. But again, they're wild animals. There's no guarantee. And that's good. It's good to have mornings like that. But persevere. So if you're looking for something, don't just give up. Keep going, look around an area, keep driving, and eventually things will happen for you. Things will happen around you. I mean, find this herd and to get them so relaxed that they've decided to sleep next to us. That's a very, very special sighting. So even though the morning has generally been quiet, it's paid off for us now. So I think that's my tip of the day for a safari. See it breathing there. I'm trying to think. The bird that you can probably all hear is the monotonous lark. In the distance, they haven't stopped. So I think it's the monotonous lark that you can all hear. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, there's a kingfisher there.
And there's a kingfisher sitting in the tree. Yeah. I've actually seen a lot of woodland kingfisher this morning. So maybe they're deciding to extend their holiday down here a little bit. Not sure when they're going to leave. sun is really starting to bake down on us now. These elephants have got the perfect spot there in the shade of this African wattle, Peltiforum africanum, the weeping wattle or the African wattle. I must admit, watching these elephants snooze like this is making me a little bit drowsy. So if it goes very quiet for a while, don't worry, I've just fallen asleep. Nothing to worry about. So I designed, maybe you sent through the question just before I mentioned it, but not sure if you did hear, but I think they generally, I mean, they can lie down for 10 minutes, half an hour. Seen some elephants sleep for about an hour, hour and a half. Usually, that's about it. Not too much longer than that. As I was saying, they don't rest like we need to. The third one's just gone down. You can see in the back there, third little youngster. All this business of moving around feeding can be tiring, I suppose. It's decided to now lie down and rest. This is amazing. This is really, really amazing. See, they're not feeding, they are completely resting. That's all they're doing now. Mary, elephants will wean their youngsters from about 3 years old, 2 to 3 they'll start weaning them. But the thing is, Mary, often what happens is you get these youngsters that still try their luck, even up to 4 or 5 years old. I've seen the young elephants try and suckle from their mothers. So it can be that long where they still take a chance and try to get milk. But I mean, even younger, they'll start feeding on vegetation and start drinking water from less than a year old. But they need a lot of milk up until about 2 to 3 years old. Now, I designed a good question, and my maths is terrible, but I think it's between, I think it can be somewhere between 3 and 4 in a lifetime on average for an adult female. And I mean, maybe you can work it out, but an adult female will probably only give birth for the first time between the age of about 15 and 20, somewhere around there, I would say. And then once she's given, well, it's a 22-month gestation period, which is very long. Then they look after that youngster for at least 2 or 3 years, probably before they decide to mate again. And then will give birth to another calf. So. And the average age of an elephant is probably 50 to 60 years old. So let's see who comes up with an answer. I'm just off the top of my head, probably 3 or 4 is an average for an adult female to give birth in her lifetime. Donald, I don't think so. I think an elephant sleepwalking would be some serious trouble. So no, I don't know if they dream. I mean, you know, if you look at some of the other animals like lions and that, you see them twitching if they are resting or sleeping. So, I mean, are they dreaming? I don't know. How do you tell? I really don't know. And I don't know if elephants dream. I don't know, but again, they don't sleep like we sleep. They don't go into a deep slumber where they don't know what's going on around them. They're constantly aware. Even these ones lying on the ground, they know what's around them, and especially because the others are keeping a lookout, but they will be aware. So, because in Africa and in nature, you've got to constantly be aware. You can't let your guard down at any point, at any stage. So even when we see lions and you think they're fast asleep, they are still completely aware and alert as to what's going on around them. Okay, so from these lazy elephant that are resting, let's head back to Tristan on the bushwalk. And he's got a slow-moving animal he'd like to show you.
We do indeed, but this is not your regular slow-moving tortoise. This is a very, very special tortoise. And I feel quite sorry for this little tortoise because I don't think it's very well at all, and I think it's gone through a lot in its life. So if you look at the shell is very, very white on one side and is missing that sort of shell-like color. So I think this poor tortoise was caught in a fire and was unfortunately, its shell was damaged by fire, and I'm not sure if its legs are damaged because it's not really moving around, but it is definitely from fire, because if you have a look at this area over here, you see that this is all actually melted away, and there's what the normal shell should look like, and this is what it actually looks like now. So unfortunately, I think this poor tortoise had a really rough time. Maybe it was 2 years ago we had a really big fire in this area, and it could have easily have happened then, because this outer shell here has really weathered quite a bit, and you would only really see a tortoise's shell like this when they were dead. So when we first walked past, we thought it was just the shell of the tortoise, and as we opened the bushes up a little bit, we noticed this little head poking out, and so this poor little tortoise is still here. Now, it is a leopard tortoise, so it's got that very domed shell. Even though it's been kind of burnt off and the coloration's not there anymore, we can still see the dome shape of the shell, as well as some of the coloration on that right hand side. And this, I'm not sure if it's a boy or a girl, so I haven't decided what I'm going to name it. Rebecca reckons that I should name it Beyonce after the song that she sung, Survivor, so maybe we should call it that. It looks like it's big enough to be a girl, so we can go with Beyonce. This is going to be Beyonce the leopard tortoise, and we shall monitor Beyonce's progress. I'll come back later this afternoon and see if maybe Beyonce got out and managed to find a way to carry on with the day. Now, she is in a good place because she's got lots and lots of vegetation here that she can feed off, and also she's got water right behind her, so if she needs to move around and go anywhere, she does have this beautiful pan that she can come and drink at. Not that this water is beautiful in any way, you can see it's very filthy, and that's why the Ellies actually just walked straight past it. They didn't worry about this at all. They didn't come and drink, and this is where I was hoping they were going to come and drink when we were talking about it earlier, but it's just so full of muck and dung that I don't think the Ellies want to drink it at all. John B., you said you've never seen an tortoise before. Well, it's not common at all. Generally, tortoises with their hard shells are able to withstand quite a lot of different sort of forces, but fire is really one of their biggest problems. What does surprise me, though, is that enough fire to have caused that much damage must have meant that this tortoise would have gotten very hot inside. So I don't know how this tortoise actually survived this ordeal. Given that so much of it is burnt, I would have thought that it would have had really bad damage to its legs and its face, but it just shows you how effective that shell is at keeping this animal alive. What I also don't know is how that animal actually survived not being basically boiled, because even in that shell, when heat is applied, it's going to get hotter and hotter inside there. So it really is quite a sort of staggering feat for this little animal to be alive. So I'm super chuffed with Beyonce. She's done very, very well, and hopefully she will continue to live for many years. These leopard tortoises can go well over 90, so maybe she'll still be around for a lot longer. She's still about midway if it is a girl, and it's about that sort of size. Now, the only way to tell if it's a male or a female would be either to look underneath on the shell and see if there's a little indent. If there's an indent, it will be a male. Also, you can check the length of the tail. Now, there are some more Ellies around, so we're going to just try and find ourselves some cover, because as you can see, we're standing right in the open, and there's other Ellies on this side. So we're going to try and see if we can just position ourselves a little bit better and see if we can't find some sort of structure to get behind, because as you can see, there come the Ellies from the back now. So this is a different herd that is coming, so we're going to try and just find a different area before we get squashed. Right, now, it's been an elephant morning, so while we try to find some cover, let's go across to Byron, who's got some ellies of his own.
I do indeed. It looks like it's been an elephant morning for us this last hour or so. The ladies in the final control seem to be laughing hysterically about something, so we'll need to find out what that was. These elephants haven't moved, they're still resting. Listen. They were giving that vocalization again. But they still, it's amazing how they're lying down. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them lying down. And the 3 larger ones are standing watch. They're just not fazed by us. It really is special, wonderful. I hope all of you are enjoying this as much as I am. Tristan's still got all these elephants around him. Let's go have a look.
We do indeed. Isn't this not incredible? So that's right where we were standing is where those elephants are. And look at how they're smelling. So not only are they picking us up, but they're also going to be picking up the signs of the other herd. Now that's a big male that's in front. Well, not a very big male. He's a young male in front. And that's exactly where I was standing. So that's why he's sniffing there. He can pick up the scent that I was standing there. And that's why the ears are out and he's posturing, trying to see where this threat has gone. Now luckily for us, the wind is pushing straight into our face, so we can just stand dead still and stay nice and quiet. They should move along and carry on. But look at that, isn't that amazing? And see the communication, even the others have all stopped. As soon as that elephant started to posture and lift its head and use its trunk, the rest of them know instinctively that it's time to stop and to watch and to look around. So absolutely incredible behavior that we're witnessing. Now the reason why I know that that's a young male, if you look at his head when he turns, look at how rounded that head is. Very, very rounded head, which is very typical of young males. A female would have a much more angular head. His tusks are still quite narrow, but those will thicken up as he gets older. And there we go. You see, they're satisfied that there's no threat, and now they're going to carry on walking. Isn't that incredible? Absolutely amazing. We have been absolutely spoilt this morning. Now you see the older female just stopping, and the rest of the herd that we were watching earlier is not too far from where we are now. Like I was saying just now, they were a little bit further east, and actually when we were leaving, I could see them all. So I wonder if these two herds are going to come together. Now you can see she's just watching towards us. So she would have been hearing me talking. That's why I'm keeping quiet, so that she doesn't hear us. Look at the little baby in front. So you see how the baby gets positioned on the other side of the herd, so that it can be safe and the female intercepts. Now, they might be turning because of this other herd that is in front of them. But let's just see where they go. This is absolutely incredible. And there we go, off they go. So you see how sound is an important part of it, as well as sense of smell. The sense of smell for an elephant must be absolutely incredible, for them to have smelt just where we were standing, and then also to hear me while I was talking. And I wasn't talking very loud at all, I was just whispering, but yet they were able to pick it up. And look at the instinct of that female, just to come between us and her herd and make sure her herd is nice and safe, and that little baby is kept in the middle and in a safe place. Absolutely amazing. There we go, and off they drift to go join the rest of the herd. What an incredible experience. Now, that is absolutely amazing. So I think it's time for us to get out of here before we get trapped again by another herd. And let's go across to Taylor, who I believe has got some impala that are about to start a very important life event.
We do indeed. We have got a huge herd of impala rams all standing about down here at Vulture Dam. And as Tristan has just said, is that they're gearing up for the rut. Now you may see a fence, you may see some buildings. That is Vulture Lodge it's part of Djuma Private Game Reserve, of course. So isn't that what a spectacular view down onto this open area. So of course they're very relaxed at the moment though, but we did stumble across a big impala ram on his own that snorted and sort of, I don't know what you would call the noise that they make, gurgling? Would you use the word gurgle? Does that sound right, Rebecca? Could an impala gurgle at you? I don't even know if I've made that word up. But strange noises. They definitely grunt, and then they make this bizarre other noise, which I cannot do very well. Maybe Brent will be able to do it. Perhaps we'll have to ask him when he comes back to imitate the sound. And look at their coats. They're looking in just great condition at this time of the year. Very shiny coats. It looks like they've sprayed silicone or something over their bodies. It's so slick and smooth. Not a hair out of place. Fat, big necks, bulging with muscles. They are ready to start battling it out between themselves. And the youngsters are all practicing with each other, pushing each other around, which is normal, of course. And I think the heat of the day has definitely set upon us. And so that they're going to move around the corner and go into the shade. But there's lots of other birds and animals around here. Something I'd like to have a look at is this hardy-dar that's just standing just on the other side of the dam. It's a beautiful reflection of it. Look at that. Now, it's interesting to see a hardy-dar near the water, especially the water's edge. And I think one of the reasons why it has come down here is because all the soil that is surrounding this wetland area, this natural pan, is quite soft, so it does make it easy for that bird to probe its bill into the sand. Whether it might be up a bit further, the ground could be a bit harder, and then it's difficult to find food. Now, a bird that I haven't seen in a very long time is an African sacred ibis, and I shall pull out a picture of it in a moment. And they look like hardy-dars, but they are black and white. They're in the same family, of course. They are ibises. So I shall look for a photo. And they are typically synonymous with water. You always see them around water. And I'm surprised we don't see them here. I'm going to check. They occur here. You can easily see them. Should I show you? Would you like to see a photo? And they're one of my favorite birds. Actually, I'm just trying to think how we're going to do this, Craig. I think I need to drop it down here in the shade. Otherwise, we're not going to get a view of it. Okay, what I'm going to do is, can you see it? I think it's quite difficult with the glare, but you sort of get an idea. It's black and white. It's quite tall, a little bit taller than a normal hardy-dar or than an ibis. Right, I'm going to put it down now, but beautiful white. And then when they open up their wings, it's actually quite pretty. They've got these little bits of pink on the inside of their wings too. But they absolutely love to sit around watering holes like this and catch all the insects. There's another one that's just popped through its partner. Remember, these birds are monogamous. That one looks like beautiful color on it. Look at that lovely purple sheen coming off of the wings. There we go. Now you can see probing through that soft mud, looking for beetle larvae, any insects that may be living around the water. But we're going to move on. We're going to see if we can find the McCurdy-hurdy or a couple of wildebeest, and I'm going to send you across now to Byron for a very quick update.
Right, well, I've left those elephant. They were still resting, enjoying the shade. We were starting to cook a little bit in the sun. But I have managed to find something else for you. Let us turn down here. Ta-da! And guess what? There's some shade for us too. It's Jerry the giraffe. Also enjoying the shade at the moment. There's actually a large journey. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 or 6 giraffe just scanning around. Yeah, so there's quite a few giraffe in this area at the moment. What are you looking at, Seb?
She went behind it.
There was a giraffe and disappeared. There we go, there goes another one. It's so lovely seeing the giraffe too. Very graceful creatures. And nice to see them out in the clearing. I think I've got an April Fool's for Tristan. I think we're going to tell him. I'm going to ask Rebecca to do this too, so she can get in on the fun. See if she will. I think we should tell Tristan that we are extending drive by an hour this morning, and he needs to stay out for an additional hour and walk in this heat. Rebecca, will you pass on that message for us? So don't forget, though, a legitimate change in time this afternoon. We are going to be starting half an hour earlier. So 3:30 Central African time, our time, we are going to be live. So 3:30 to 6:30. It's just half an hour earlier. And then for those of you who didn't quite catch this morning start, it's also half an hour later in the morning. So we go live at 6 in the morning to 9 from now on. So the times have changed. Safari Dean and D-Hugs, you said we should make fake tracks for Tristan to follow this afternoon. Yes, perhaps we should, but it's a little tricky making fake tracks. We need to do something, but I think that telling him that he needs to stay out for another hour, that could be quite fun. We'll just let it simmer for 5 minutes and see how he reacts. Maybe when he's live, Rebecca can give him the updates and just say, listen, tell the viewers you need to stay out for another hour. We're extending drive. That could be quite entertaining. Living life on the edge. Oh dear, you see what happens when times change and we spend too much time in the sun. You can see that other giraffe, 3 of them now, in that same frame. Just if we zoom out of that one, look at the others coming in there. And pretty soon I'm going to have to try and track some bacon and eggs. I can feel this. With it being half an hour later, we should have had breakfast already by now. This last hour has been wonderful, though. It really has been great. It started off a bit slow this morning. Well, for me, it started off a little bit slow, but it paid off in the end. I mean, you see the elephant first was very, very special. That's a highlight for me. And then to see all these giraffe walking across the clearing. It's really, really great. Wonderful, wonderful morning. Hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you this afternoon again. Let's head back to Taylor for myself and Seb. We'll see you all soon.
So Byron's giraffe are leaving him, but if you just come across the other side of the road, you would have seen that we have an entire herd of giraffe. They are everywhere at the moment. So far, Craig and I have counted 7, but there could be a couple or more, maybe 8. There's a mixture of adults, there is a mixture of youngsters. They're all about standing now under the only tree that will give them a bit of shade. And of course, that's in the form of a marula tree. I mean, now you really get to be able to see how tall a giraffe is because their heads are almost touching the leaves. And those are 2 females that we are looking at. How lovely is that? Yes, now she doesn't need to use her long tongue at all because she's the same height as those low-lying leaves, so she'll just munch them off. There's also no thorns on that tree. But this is really cool. This is amazing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, I've now got 8 giraffe. Every time I count them, there seems to be one more that keeps popping up. Now, I just wanted to very quickly remind you as we sit with these beautiful giraffe, as that, of course, the times have changed for the safari. So this afternoon, the sunset safari will be starting at 3:30 p.m. Central African time and ending at 6:30 p.m. in the evening, of course. And then again, just for the morning times, the sunrise safaris will be from 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock Central African time, first thing as the sun comes up. But now it's quite nice. They're coming together, all moving across the open plains. Here comes another little one. There could be 9. I don't think I counted that. How cool is this? Right, and it's come to that time of the show where we have to say goodbye to all of you, but I hope that you've enjoyed it, from leopards to giraffe to countless elephants. I don't know what my highlight was, probably seeing quarantine, but a big thank you, of course, from all of us here at Wild Earth, and we hope to see you this afternoon. And I'm going to leave you with one last look of the giraffe.